Chapter 1892. As one of the 5 emperors of the Huangfu family, when had he ever suffered such humiliation? Especially when he heard Yi Qingluo said she was only 15 years old, he felt his face burning hot. He, the dignified Golden Emperor, addressed a 15-year-old young lady as senior. If this matter were to spread out, how could he survive in the Huangfu family? However, in the next instant the words 15 years old stunned Elder Jin. 15 years old? This young lady was only 15 years old? 15 years old and already had such powerful and boundless power? When did that bunch of trash from the lower realm have such incredible innate talent? Cut the crap, this godforsaken place is going to give birth to a new monster. Yi Qingluo strolled to the front of Qiao Jin and Yen Xiaoyi as she crossed her arms. I'm their representative, whatever family matters you have, just say it. Qingluo? Qiao Jin frowned and immediately tugged at Yi Qingluo. Don't go against the Huangfu family, that's a power that we can't go against. They want me, I'll just go back with them. Yi Qingluo directly slapped the back of Qiao Jin's hand. She sneered at Qiao Jin as the anger in her eyes was obvious. Shut the F***ck up, I haven't even taught you a lesson and you're already thinking of escaping with that old man? Saying that, she winked at Yen Xiaoyi's direction. That wicked smile on her lips was like a blooming poppy, giving off a fatal temptation. Xiaoyi, don't worry, if this fellow dares to hurt your heart, I'll beat him till he can't get up. Yen Xiaoyi was stunned and was about to shake her head to reject. Qiao Jin didn't love her, that was a problem with her charm. Even if she beat Qiao Jin up, that wouldn't change the fact that Qiao Jin didn't love her. But at the next moment, when she met Qiao Jin's surprise, a helpless expression flashed past her eyes. She suddenly seemed to have caught on to something. She nodded her head at Yi Qingluo. All right, I'll wait for you to teach him a lesson on my behalf. Yi Qingluo's brows rose as she shifted her gaze back onto Elder Jin. Old man, you've heard it too. I have to bring this lad back home to teach him a lesson, so there's no way for me to let him go, so I've troubled you to make a wasted trip all the way here. You, preposterous. Elder Jin flew into a rage and he fumed with rage. Who the hell are you? Yi Qingluo smiled sweetly, the person who snatched him from you. A cold glint flashed across Emperor Jin's golden and black eyes. Impudent. Huangfu Dongyu's face was gloomy, and he assumed the attitude of eldest young master Huangfu. He furrowed his brows and glared at Qiao Jin. Fifth brother, are these the random friends you made in the lower bound? He snorted coldly, full of disdain. She's shameless and doesn't know how to be reserved. One is arrogant, willful, and has no manners at all. I really don't know what exactly you've done in the lower worlds to embarrass the Huangfu family. Hearing Huangfu Dongyu's reprimand, Yen Xiaoyi's face turned green and red. She bit her lower lip tightly, enduring the shame in her heart. Qiao Jin noticed Yen Xiaoyi's expression. He turned sideways and suddenly stretched out his hand to hold Yen Xiaoyi's little hand. His large, broad palm held her tightly. Yen Xiaoyi raised her head in astonishment, as she tried to retract her hand in a fluster. But Qiao Jin held her even tighter as he shook his head at her. He indicated to her not to take Huangfu Dongyu's words to heart. Just as the both of them were entangled, the crisp sound of a slap resounded through the silent void. Star. Chapter 1893. How dare you hit me? You're just a lowly human from the lower realm, how dare you hit me? Huangfu Dongyu's raging voice was hoarse and sharp. He covered his face. That handsome and gloomy face had already swollen up. Huangfu Qifei and Huangfu Fengyan's expressions turned extremely ugly. Yi Qingluo actually hit their Huangfu family's eldest young master right in front of them. Wasn't this a blatant slap to their Huangfu family? Jin Huanglau's expression was extremely ugly. But it wasn't because Yi Qingluo had slapped the Huangfu family's face. But he was astonished because when did Yi Qingluo make a move under his eyelids? If it wasn't for that crisp slap, he probably didn't even realize that his eldest young master had been slapped by a 15-year-old young lady. Following that, a scene that made Jin Huanglao even more shocked happened. He saw Yi Qingluo's lips curled up into a charming smile. That stunning face that could topple a city was bewitching and seductive, exuding an extremely seductive charm. Even the Jin Huanglao who was over 50 years old couldn't help but lost his senses. He had to admit that this 15-year-old young lady indeed had the capital to become a femme fatale that could bring calamity to the country. I not only hit you, I also kicked you. The young lady's voice was sweet and slightly chilly. As the young lady's laughter approached, before Huangfu Dongyu could react, he felt a dull pain in his chest. Immediately, his body felt light as he flew out directly. Bam! In the end, Huangfu Donghuang's body crashed heavily into the empty space. Huangfu Donghuang rolled on the ground in pain as he wailed and tried to get up. He had just sat up when he felt a fishy taste in his throat. With a pft sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood, which stained his brocade robe. Lowly human from the lower realm, do you know what our Huangfu family is? Huangfu Fengyan was terrified as she stared at Yiqing Luo in horror. It seemed that they couldn't imagine that this innocent-looking young lady would actually hit their eldest brother again and again. Yiqing Luo sneered as her gloomy voice seemed to be ridiculing them. Don't let me hear a single word that insults my friend, otherwise every time I hear it, I will beat you up. Huangfu Fengyan was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows, her bright and beautiful face was overflowing with a flamboyant aura. It seemed to be saying, "You don't believe me? Then go ahead and curse. See if this old lady will beat you to death." Huangfu Fengyan was so angry that her eyes turned red. She asked Elder Jin for help in a low voice. At this moment, Emperor Jin felt as if his old face had been slapped loudly. This time it was reasonable to say that he was too careless. But the second time was simply looking down on his authority as an imperial elder. Emperor Jin could not be bothered to guess the true identity of this 15-year-old girl. He only knew that if he allowed Yiqing Luo to make a move and insult his Huangfu family's young master or young Mississippi, their Huangfu clan would become a joke. His brocade robe fluttered, and his golden eyes suddenly shot out an extremely cold light. The next moment Yiqing Luo clearly sensed it. The profound qi and fluctuations around Emperor Jin's body were constantly increasing. The surrounding air also began to condense into frost under the lingering of his profound energy. On the other hand, the people in front of them were smiling sweetly and chatting happily. This joy was imagined by Huangfu and the other two. In reality, Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's expressions contained hints of worry. Qing Luo Huangfu family isn't a family from Nirvana realm. They are a family from the upper realm, heaven realm's four great families. Qiao Jin looked at Emperor Jin's ugly expression as he reminded Yiqing Luo softly. Heaven realm? Yiqing Luo raised her brows in surprise. Little Jin, you're actually from the heaven realm, that's amazing. This wasn't the main point, all right. The main point was that the target she was clamoring about was the forces from the upper realm's heaven realm. Offending the heaven realm's forces would have a huge impact on her future. If Huangfu family wanted to find trouble with Yiqing Luo because of today's matter. Chapter 1895. Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose slightly as she raised her hand and rubbed Qiao Jin's head. Be good, don't panic. Before I kill you, I will absolutely not let Huangfu family's people kill you. Qiao Jin gave up on communicating with Yiqing Luo. They chatted as if there was no one else around. This caused the rage in the depths of Emperor Jin's heart to surge. He narrowed his eyes, and while Yiqing Luo was still chatting with Qiao Jin, his golden pupils suddenly flashed. A ray of golden light turned into a soaring energy as it sneaked an attack on Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi faced this direction and immediately cried out in fear, "Be careful." Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes, her long curly eyelashes were like butterfly wings, gently fluttering. Hearing Yan Xiaoyi's call, she waved her hand without a change in expression. It's all right. His words had just ended when the golden light had already rushed in front of Yiqing Luo. With a loud bang, the golden light engulfed Yiqing Luo entirely. Qing Luo. Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi cried out in alarm at the same time. Yan Xiaoyi wanted to rush forward and break through the golden light. Qiao Jin held her little hand tightly, the expression on his face was extremely solemn. Don't go over. Elder Jin's power is not something you and I can contend with. If you are touched by Elder Jin's dark force, even you will be engulfed. Qing Luo is here to save us. Yan Xiaoyi struggled against Qiao Jin's hand as her eyes instantly turned red. With a sobbing tone, she angrily rebuked Emperor Jin. So what if you're the Emperor Elder of a great family in the heaven realm? You still have to sneak up on a 15-year-old girl. Is this the style of your so-called big families? Emperor Jin was extremely annoyed by the scolding. His face was boiling hot, and his heart was filled with shame. However, he would never admit that he had ambushed a 15-year-old girl. As long as he killed these people, who would find out if he hid this matter? With this thought in mind, Emperor Jin looked at Yan Xiaoyi with a murderous look in his eyes. Elder Jin Huang. Qiao Jin immediately pulled Yan Xiaoyi into his arms. He stared at Elder Jin warily and threateningly. As the heir, I order you to retract your murderous aura. Emperor Jin laughed sinisterly. All of a sudden he left the spot. Like a bolt of lightning he darted towards Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin's golden eyes flashed and he hurriedly wrapped his arms around Yan Xiaoyi's waist to avoid Elder Jin's attack. He narrowed his golden eyes and a dazzling golden light shot out. Are you disobeying the heir's orders? This old man is only doing this for the future of the successor's young master. These evil women who have changed the successor's young master must be eliminated. Elder Jin spoke in a dignified manner. Obviously he had made up his mind to kill Yan Xiaoyi. You want to eliminate us? Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice came from behind Emperor Jin. It was like a pearl falling onto a plate, pleasant to the ear. However, in Emperor Jin's ears, but it was like an evil ghost that wanted to take his life. It was as if an ice-cold hand had gripped his neck. Emperor Jin's body suddenly tensed up. A cold object was pressed against his neck. A face that could topple cities appeared in front of him. The girl's charming eyes curved into a long and narrow arc, bewitching and seductive. She was laughing. Her smile was charming and enchanting. Emperor Jin's heart skipped a beat and suddenly shrank. Just like what the old man said, as Jin Zi's family, I should eliminate evil people like you who don't think for the successor. Yi Qing Luo said with a smile, but the seriousness in her words could be heard. Emperor Jin didn't dare to move. Chapter 1896. Yi Qing Luo blinked her pure and innocent eyes as she beamed, because I have a protector. Protector? What the hell was that? Elder Jin's face was filled with uneasiness and doubt. Yi Qing Luo very kindly raised her voice, My guardian angel, there's someone here who wants to see you. In the air there seemed to be a faint sigh. That sigh was filled with a touch of pampering and helplessness. The next moment, the surrounding aura suddenly fluctuated, pressing down on everyone, making it hard for them to breathe. Shortly after, the void turned pitch black. A man dressed in a purple robe, like a banished immortal, stepped on the air. The purple robe billowed, peerless. The figure that was slowly walking over was surrounded by a purple flowing light. Under the pitch-black void, it was extremely eye-catching. When a few pairs of eyes fell on that peerless face of peerless elegance, all of a sudden their legs went limp. In the next instant he knelt on the ground with a clatter. Elder Jin didn't even care about Yi Qing Luo's glower flame fan as he knelt directly on the ground. The sharp blade cut through his skin. He didn't care at all as he respectfully knelt on the ground. Yi Qing Luo kept her glower flame fan and stretched out her hands to the man who was coming towards her. Protector, I want a hug. The man's peach blossom eyes were filled with a pool of spring water. The way he looked at Yi Qing Luo was pampering and gentle. He stretched out his hand and caught the young lady who pounced on him. His slender fingers gently brushed the hair on her forehead. Yi Qing Luo rubbed against his palm contentedly, like a cat who had succeeded in stealing a fish. The sweet atmosphere between the two of them. Anyone could tell the relationship between the two of them. Elder Jin's forehead was covered in cold sweat. No wonder, a 15-year-old girl was able to block his attack and dissipate his profound energy. So it was the Overlord who had been secretly protecting her. If he had known that this young lady and the Overlord were so close, he would never come down to the Nirvana realm to catch any successor. Get up and get lost. Dmo Xian glanced at Elder Jin and the others. His tone was cold and emotionless. Emperor Jin kowtowed fiercely and said with a trembling voice, Yes. This lowly one will leave immediately. As he spoke, he crawled up from the ground, dragging the other 3 Huangfu siblings with him as he hurriedly left. Wait. Dmo Xian's eyes flickered as he spoke in a calm voice. Dong dong dong. The sound of their knees hitting the ground was extremely clear. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she couldn't help but felt a stinging pain in her knees. Qiao Jin is the brother of the future empress. If the future empress does not release him, then you people from the heaven realm should obediently stay in the heaven realm and not try to create trouble. His voice was calm and there was no way to hide his emotions. However, he was still emanating an irresistible pressure. It was as if he was born with a sense of nobility that made people unable to help but kneel and kowtow. Emperor Jin trembled uncontrollably, not daring to defy him at all. Not only did he want them to stop harassing Qiao Jin. Even if Dmo Xian wanted Qiao Jin to never return to the Huangfu family, he would also agree. Who cares about their ancestors' recognition? Who cares about the Huangfu clan's inheritance? Once Di Zun was offended, don't even talk about inheritance. Whether the Huangfu clan could still exist was a problem. Dmo Xian swept a glance at Huangfu clan and the rest and spat out a word coldly, Get lost. The next moment, Emperor Jin led the three of them and left without stopping. Star. Chapter 1897. The battle plain was immersed in dead silence. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist as her slender brows rose slightly, as she swept a glance at Diamo Xian with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Her two fair and tender little hands climbed onto his face. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled into a charming smile. My protector, the person has already been saved, tell me? How do we break the array? Diamo Xian held onto the little hand which was pinching his face, as he knew the anger under her smile. He sighed lightly as he grabbed her hand and placed it by his lips, giving a light kiss. If you want to break it, I can do it anytime. Yiqing Luo's smile became even more radiant, but she withdrew her hand from his lips. The atmosphere was a little strange. On the other side, Qiao Jin's golden eyes were filled with a complicated expression as he looked at Diamo Xian, as though he was trying to guess something. But when Diamo Xian inadvertently glanced over and fixed his gaze on him, Qiao Jin suddenly felt a chill in his heart. His eyes flickered slightly as though he understood something. He immediately hid away the complicated deep meaning in his eyes, as he lowered his eyelids and hugged the lady in his arms tightly. Qing Luo? His voice broke the strange atmosphere. He hugged Yan Xiaoyi as he walked towards Yiqing Luo as his face turned pale. You're too rash. Huangfu family's power is something you can't imagine. Moreover, those arrogant imperial elders are so narrow-minded, they will not let you off. He raised his eyes and took a look at Diamo Xian as he pursed his lips. Even if the Overlord is here today, but the Overlord can't possibly be by your side all the time. If Huangfu family wants to make a move, I'm afraid even the entire imperial palace will not be able to protect you. Qiao Jin had grown up in Huangfu family since young. He knew everything about Huangfu family like the back of his hand. That seemingly noble and powerful family. Just how dirty and disgusting was it behind the scenes? Especially those 5 sanctimonious imperial elders, each more sinister and treacherous than the other. Yiqing Luo had humiliated the golden imperial elders today. And humiliated the 3 Huangfu family members. Huangfu family would definitely not let Yiqing Luo off easily. Yiqing Luo struggled her arm. Diamo Xian released the hand which was around her waist. Breaking away from the man's restraint, Yiqing Luo slowly walked towards Qiao Jin. He was only 2 steps away from Qiao Jin. She stood still, and the corners of her mouth curled into a wicked and arrogant smile. That pair of enchanting and bewitching eyes flashed with nobility and elegance that made people look up to her. Jin, I've said this before. No matter who it is, those who offend me will be killed no matter how far away they are. So what if it's the upper realm, one of the 4 heavenly clans of the heaven realm? Her tone was calm. However, it still caused everyone to feel a boundless shock. Those who offend me will be punished no matter how far away they are. What kind of confidence did he have to be able to say such a thing? Qiao Jin's anxious and worried heart slowly settled down from Yiqing Luo's words. Since you don't want to return to the Huangfu family and become the so-called heir, then don't go back. No one can force you to do anything. Yes, except for me, of course. Yiqing Luo said in a serious manner, but suddenly thought of something and immediately changed her words. The solemn atmosphere instantly collapsed because of this change of words. Yiqing Luo gave a few dry coughs as she raised her hand and patted Qiao Jin's shoulder hard. To me, living a good life with my brothers, relatives and lover is enough. As for the rest, as long as we are united, there's nothing we can't cross. Qing Luo? Qiao Jin's golden eyes flashed as he was so touched that he murmured Yiqing Luo's name. The next instant, Yiqing Luo's heart-stirring smile on her face was replaced with a strange and crafty cold smile. Star. Yiqing Luo's impatient character couldn't wait to knead the both of them into a ball and settle the matter directly. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and calmed her impatient heart. Soon after, she fixed her gaze on Qiao Jin and said in a calm voice, Qiao Jin, if you're still a man, then sort out your own feelings. Don't force your own thoughts onto others. Just because you think something is good doesn't mean it's really good. You're always worrying about whether you'll be a burden in the future, hurting others, hurting yourself, and in the end you'll be alone for the rest of your life, regretting it for the rest of your life. She intentionally emphasized on the word, her, as though she was referring to something. When Qiao Jin heard that, his body tensed up as though he was moved by Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo continued, one should live in the present and live well every single day today. If you're worrying about tomorrow every day, then tomorrow after tomorrow, how tired would you be living? Chapter 1899. Qiao Jin's mind kept reverberating with Yiqing Luo's words. His throat was dry and after spitting out a word he didn't say anything else. Yi Qing Luo's words were right. He was indeed a waste. So useless that he didn't even dare to grab his own future. In his mind Yan Xiaoyi's hurt expression surfaced. Yan Xiaoyi looked at him, her eyes were filled with pain. Yan Xiaoyi was exhausted, as though she had lost all hope towards this relationship. But at the next moment, Xiao Jin recalled these 2 days. Yan Xiaoyi kept on brainwashing him, saying that she liked him, loved him and didn't want to leave him. She was such a proud lady. But she put down her status under the situation where he didn't respond. She kept repeating her feelings over and over again, as though she wanted to tell him all her love. Xiao Jin's heart suddenly twitched fiercely. A dull pain struck his entire body. He thought that he was doing it for her good. But in actual fact he hurt her deeply. He had been worrying for nothing and had imposed his own thoughts on Yan Xiaoyi. He wanted Yan Xiaoyi to accompany him and suffer from the pain of this relationship. He was really too selfish. Too selfish. In the name of love he did things that hurt Yan Xiaoyi. He really wasn't fit to be called a man. That old man has almost cleared all the surrounding monsters and the next wave of newborn monsters will probably be 1 hour later. You have 1 hour here to talk things out clearly. Yi Qing Luo looked at Xiao Jin's moved expression as his body was trembling slightly as she spoke calmly. Feelings is most afraid of dragging it out. Speaking to this point, Yi Qing Luo's voice paused as she squinted her eyes as a tinge of apprehension surfaced. Lastly, let me give you a piece of advice. You're not Xiaoyi, so what right do you have to make a decision for Xiaoyi? Saying that, she tugged Dmo Xian's sleeve, as she turned around and walked towards the other direction of the battle plane. In this empty space, only Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were left. Earlier Yi Qing Luo's words were all heard by Yan Xiaoyi. It wasn't that she didn't understand the deep meaning behind Yi Qing Luo's words. But she didn't dare to understand, nor did she dare to think too much. Afraid that if she thought too much, it would only make her feel more despair. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's departing figure, Yan Xiaoyi instinctively wanted to chase after him. She didn't want to be alone with Xiao Jin. He also didn't want to hear the answer from Xiao Jin's mouth. But Yan Xiaoyi was just about to leave with Yi Qing Luo when her wrist was held tightly by his large palm. She was shocked and wanted to break free from his hand. Her evasive attitude made Xiao Jin's handsome brows knit together tightly. He grabbed her wrist forcefully and pulled her into his arms. His powerful arms restrained the woman and pressed her delicate body into his embrace, not giving her any chance to struggle free. You, let go. Yan Xiaoyi pursed her red lips, not daring to look into his eyes. Was he in such a hurry to cut all ties with her? Xiao Jin knew that his previous actions had hurt Yan Xiaoyi's heart, which was why Yan Xiaoyi was against him. But want to talk to her gently. Yan Xiaoyi didn't have that intention and just wanted to escape. Xiao Jin's heart sunk as he recalled what Yi Qing Luo said. He didn't want to make himself regret again. He also didn't want to hurt Yan Xiaoyi again, to make himself suffer, to make Yan Xiaoyi suffer with him. How his future would turn out. It depended on himself and no one else. Thinking in this way, the decision in Xiao Jin's heart became even firmer. His slender fingers clasped Yan Xiaoyi's lower jaw tightly, forcing her to raise her eyes and meet his gaze. Star. Chapter 1900. Slut Jean. What the hell do you want? Yan Xiaoyi was unable to shift her line of sight, and could only use her beautiful eyes to glare fiercely at him. Her pink cheeks were tainted with a trace of shame and anger. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? I'll listen, I'll listen. The strength of Xiao Jin's fingers slightly lessened. His eyes had already returned to their ink-black color. His deep eyes stared fixedly at Yan Xiaoyi. Looking at her gradually reddening eyes, his heart twitched violently again. In the past, you didn't even know how to be reserved and kept pestering me, saying that you loved me. Now, you're not even willing to talk to me? The Yan Xiaoyi of the past 2 days was even more pitiful. Unexpectedly, this sentence of his made Yan Xiaoyi's eyes redden even more. She bit her red lips and her eyes were filled with a trace of resentment. She stared into Xiao Jin's eyes and said word by word, "Yes, I don't know how to be reserved. Xiao Jin, I just like you. Because I like you, I don't need to be reserved. Are you satisfied now?" Xiao Jin. He was dumbfounded. Did he say something wrong again? Looking at Yan Xiaoyi, who was on the verge of tears. Xiao Jin wished he could slap his own mouth. He hurriedly let go of Yan Xiaoyi's chin and wrapped his arms around her petite body. He frantically tried to explain, "Sorry? Xiaoyi, I didn't mean it that way." Yan Xiaoyi quietly lowered her head and did not speak. Xiao Jin hurriedly said, "I'm not saying that you don't know how to be reserved. I mean I want to keep you here. Don't go, listen to me. Yan Xiaoyi was still quiet, but her heart was beating faster. Xiao Jin's attitude and tone of voice. It made Yan Xiaoyi feel as though she was in a dream, but she didn't dare to think too much. Xiaoyi, other than the students of Devil class, I've never had any special contact with any girl before, so I don't really know how to coax a girl, and I don't really know how to not treat a girl as my own brother. Little by little, Xiao Jin's words caused Yan Xiaoyi's heart to tremble. She lifted her eyes in shock and looked at Xiao Jin's face in disbelief. He said, "We don't treat each other like brothers." What does that mean? He said he wanted to coax her? Was she dreaming? But when she met Xiao Jin's eyes, that pair of eyes that were usually frivolous were now filled with sincerity. His large palm cupped her little face. "Xiaoyi, didn't I promise you that as long as we can leave this place alive, I will tell you my answer?" Yan Xiaoyi's chest tightened as her heartbeat accelerated. His gaze was fixed on Yi Qingluo without blinking. "My answer is Yan Xiaoyi. Towards you, I don't like you." His beating heart suddenly felt as if it had fallen into an icehouse. His heart was throbbing, and in that instant, it suddenly turned cold, so cold that it could pierce through his bones. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes gradually reddened. What else was she hoping for? After a long time, she lowered her eyes, wanting to pry open Xiao Jin's hands. However, he suddenly pressed his lips against hers. His warm, thin lips kissed away the tears at the corner of her eyes. His kiss was extremely gentle, extremely gentle. "Towards you, I don't just like you. I love you. I love you, Yan Xiaoyi." His deep voice, beside her ear, was like a splendid firework blossoming. She was stunned. Because of his gentle kiss, her heart, which was in a daze, seemed to have stopped beating. She almost forgot to breathe. What did he say? He loved her? He loved her. Chapter 1901. Drops of tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. It was different from the tears just now. These were tears of joy. "Xiaoyi, I'm serious. I really, really love you." When Xiao Jin saw that her tears were gushing out even more fiercely, he raised his hand helplessly and wiped her tears away. He stammered over his feelings for her. From his appearance, it was obvious that he had no experience in the field of relationships. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't help but let out a laugh. There were tears in her smile, and her beautiful eyes were filled with joy and sweetness. "Xiaoyi, I'm telling the truth. Don't doubt me." Xiao Jin anxiously held her hand. "From a very, very long time ago, I only had eyes for you." "A long time ago?" Yan Xiaoyi wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. "How long ago?" Xiao Jin's ears turned red. It's just that a long time ago when I first saw you in the Devil class, I fell in love with you." Yan Xiaoyi laughed. "Love at first sight?" Xiao Jin nodded vigorously. Actually, Xiao Jin himself did not dare to believe that he would fall in love at first sight with a woman from the lower realms. But it was that one glance, Yan Xiaoyi's figure, her smile and her frown, that had been deeply engraved in her heart. Xiao Jin tightened his arms around Yan Xiaoyi's slender waist. "Xiaoyi, I'm sorry. I've always loved you, but I used that as an excuse to hurt you." Yan Xiaoyi's teary eyes were filled with sweet happiness. However, after hearing Xiao Jin's words, a cunning look flashed across her eyes as she pushed his chest forcefully. "I don't believe you." Xiao Jin instantly panicked. "Really? I really liked you from the beginning. Then why, even though it was love at first sight, you refused to tell me? Even when I threw away my reservations and took the initiative to tell you my feelings, you still refused me." The delicate Yan Xiaoyi, at this moment in front of the man she loved, was like the girl next door. At this moment, Yan Xiaoyi understood clearly why the usually arrogant Yi Qingluo in front of Diamo Xian would behave like a lady. She was like this now. Yan Xiaoyi did not intend to let Xiao Jin win the beauty so easily. If it wasn't for Yi Qingluo's words which woke Xiao Jin up, wouldn't she be left behind by Xiao Jin for a period of time? Wasn't she going to be depressed because of Xiao Jin's rejection? Thinking up to here, anger surfaced on Yan Xiaoyi's face. Xiao Jin trembled with fear as he watched and immediately explained in a warm voice, "You have also seen it, my clan? I'm not someone from the Nirvana realm. In the future, I will definitely head to the Heaven realm and become the successor of the Huangfu clan." At this point, his expression dimmed a little. "I have no interest in the Huangfu clan, but the inheritance of the Huangfu clan is this pair of golden eyes. I'm the only one in the Huangfu clan who has both golden eyes. Only the inheritor of the Huangfu clan recognized by ancestor Huangfu will have two golden eyes." Yan Xiaoyi's anger dissipated a little. She reached out and wrapped her arms around his waist. Is it because of your identity and your family that you keep rejecting me? The Heaven Realm was a place she could only look up to. If Xiao Jin returned to the Huangfu clan and inherited the Huangfu clan, she and Xiao Jin would be separated by several planes, unable to meet each other again. Yes. Xiao Jin buried his head on her shoulder. I'm afraid that after we're together, if I have to leave you, you will be in even more pain. Don't you know, you thought you were doing it for my own good, but not only did you push me to a more dangerous place, you also… Yan Xiaoyi pursed her lips, looking like she was about to cry. You broke my heart. Xiaoyi, don't cry, don't cry. Xiao Jin instantly panicked, his eyes filled with panic and helplessness. He reached out to wipe Yan Xiaoyi's face. I know I was wrong. I now know that I was wrong. If you're upset, then hit me. I'll hit you until you're appeased, okay? Don't you know, what you said to Elder Jin really made me want to give up on you. Yan Xiaoyi's beautiful reddened eyes stared deeply at Xiao Jin. Chapter 1903. Xiao Jin grabbed her little hand and blew on his face. It's all my fault, my mind isn't clear and I've made the wrong decision. Yan Xiaoyi's little hand was grabbed by him. She kept on pounding on his face with force. Towards this, Yan Xiaoyi expressed her extreme helplessness. Her lips twitched a few times as she forcefully retracted her hand from his hand. Xiao Jin was stunned, thinking that Yan Xiaoyi wasn't willing to forgive him as a sliver of nervousness and cautiousness surfaced on his face. His jet-black eyes looked at Yan Xiaoyi carefully. This look made Yan Xiaoyi not know whether to laugh or cry. Did she look that fierce? Was her temper that big? She only wanted to throw a tantrum, to grumble and complain about Xiao Jin, at least to get back all the disheartened feelings that she had suffered in Xiao Jin's hands. Who knew that Xiao Jin would be so anxious? Yan Xiaoyi's little hand circled around his waist as she pinched his tight waist fiercely as she complained helplessly, I really don't know what's going on in your mind. Thinking of you. Xiao Jin buried his head on her shoulder as his words were unclear. My mind is filled with you. Yan Xiaoyi's cheeks flushed red. When did he become so glib-tongued? He actually knew how to say such words to make her happy? Although she had been flirted with. But Yan Xiaoyi tried her best to maintain her rationality. In order not to be angered by Xiao Jin's stupidity in the future. Yan Xiaoyi expressed that she must untie the knot in Xiao Jin's heart. Hence, Yan Xiaoyi's fingers which were pinching Xiao Jin's waist became even more forceful as her beautiful eyes were filled with a sliver of anger. It's too late to say nice things now. Slut Jin, Qing Luo is right about one thing, on what basis do you have to make decisions for me? Xiao Jin gave a light hiss as he drew in a breath of cold air in pain. But he obediently accepted Yan Xiaoyi's caress without struggling. Yan Xiaoyi saw his face turning pale from the pain. Xiao Jin didn't cry out in pain, but she herself was the one who started to feel heartache. In her heart, she secretly tested the love she had for Xiao Jin. Her hand changed to hammering his chest as she angrily rebuked. You said that you fell in love with me at first sight, but because you were afraid of being separated, you didn't dare to be with me. Now let me tell you, I'm not afraid. Not being able to be with you is what I'm most afraid of. Since you like me so much that you want to give up on me, then why do you think that I can't choose to wait for you or follow you to the Heaven Realm and the Huangfu clan because I like you? Xiao Jin lowered his head. Yan Xiaoyi's slender fingers fiercely poked his chest. You are the successor of the Huangfu clan. In the future, when you return to the Heaven Realm, you will also become the patriarch of the Huangfu clan. At that time, the Huangfu clan will be in your hands. Chapter 1904. Lucky? Was he really his mother's luck? Because you're the only one left. As the successor's mother, you will receive the best care, isn't that so? Yan Xiaoyi raised her hand and brushed past his stunned face. Moreover, it's because you're around that she can work hard to live on just for you. Her fingers were very gentle. Smoothed out his frowning brows. And smoothed out the knot in his heart. It's you who prolonged your mother's life and also prolonged my life. When Yan Xiaoyi said the last sentence, her cheeks blushed slightly. Her eyelashes fluttered as she unnaturally shifted her gaze away and coughed lightly as she continued. So I say, you're not some unlucky person. Otherwise devil classes students wouldn't have today's transformation, and we wouldn't have met Qing Luo. Xiao Jin's murky and complicated heart at this moment suddenly became extremely clear. He seemed to have seen a ray of light through the endless darkness. His heart was suddenly enlightened. Xiaoyi, thank you. Xiao Jin hugged Yan Xiaoyi fiercely. If it wasn't for Qing Luo's words, he would have woken up. He really didn't know how long he would miss Yan Xiaoyi again. The woman he loved so deeply. How could he bear to push her away time and time again? He was really so silly, so silly. Xiao Jin's large palm suddenly cupped Yan Xiaoyi's face. His jet-black eyes gazed deeply at Yan Xiaoyi, as though he wanted to imprint her face deeply into his heart. Xiaoyi, in the past, it's all because I'm too silly. My self-righteousness made you sad. His fingers, bit by bit, caressed Yan Xiaoyi's face. His gaze was tender, as though water could be squeezed out of it. I will use my entire life to repay you. His words landed. He had already bent down and kissed her lips. It was different from before when his emotions were unstable, the overbearing kiss. But he didn't conceal his feelings at all, that kind of deep and sincere kiss. As though he wanted to use this kiss to convey all his feelings. For the rest of his life he would accompany Yan Xiaoyi by her side, loving her and not letting go. The future was grasped in his own hands. As long as he was together with Yan Xiaoyi, no matter what accident, he would not be worried or afraid. For Yan Xiaoyi, for their future. He would do everything in his power to protect her. Yan Xiaoyi's eyelashes fluttered as she closed her eyes, enduring the man's gentle kiss. Tears of happiness overflowed from the corners of her eyes. She had finally connected with Xiao Jin. Finally she could openly fall in love with Xiao Jin. They were finally together. Another nothingness in the battle plain. Yiqing Luo raised her brows frivolously as she looked at Diamo Xian with a smile that didn't look like a smile. She didn't say anything. But from her posture, it was obvious that she was telling Diamo Xian, whatever things you've hidden from me, you better tell me everything obediently. Be honest and lenient, resist and be strict. Diamo Xian looked at the young lady's expression and sighed helplessly. He knew that if he appeared in front of the Huangfu clan today, he would definitely die. His identity would definitely be suspected by Yiqing Luo. Although this would not affect the relationship between him and Lil Luo, but this feeling of being concealed. Lil Luo, would definitely not like it. Diamo Xian stretched out his arms towards her. The girl was obedient and snuggled into his arms. Her arms encircled his waist as her chin rested on his chest, raising her head to look at him. The crafty look between her brows was obvious. It was still that smile which didn't look like a smile. There was a kind of feeling that if she didn't get the answer she would not give up. Chapter 1905. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. No? She had indeed guessed this answer before. Diamo Xian's ability had completely surpassed the standard of Nirvana Realm's cultivators. His existence could be said to have broken the balance of Nirvana Realm. But Diamo Xian rarely made a move. The only few times he made a move were all for her. But if Diamo Xian was really someone from the upper realm, staying in the lower realm for such a long time and being so high profile, wouldn't he be forcefully ordered to return to his own realm by the envoy who maintained the peace of the various realms? Like Xiao Jin, his heaven realm's heir, came down to the lower realm and even knew to hide himself like an ordinary person. Diamo Xian's high profile was something that everyone in the Nirvana realm knew about. To be able to make the heaven realm's imperial elders fearful, and wantonly run amok in the lower realm. What was Diamo Xian's identity? Lil Luo, listen to me. Diamo Xian pinched her chin as his slender fingers caressed her tender lips. Her charming eyes met with his ink-black eyes. Yiqing Luo saw the seriousness in his eyes and a trace of complicated emotions that she couldn't understand. It's not that I'm unwilling to tell you everything about me. On the contrary, I hope that you can understand everything about me. Diamo Xian's fingers were very light as he fiddled with her pink lips, as though he was igniting a fire on her lips. But Yiqing Luo didn't sense any feelings from Diamo Xian at all, and there was a kind of unprecedented seriousness. Her heart trembled slightly, and her long curly eyelashes were also trembling. In the future, I will tell you everything about me clearly, okay? Diamo Xian's fiddling fingers stopped. His gaze was filled with seriousness as he gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo. Indeed, he still couldn't say it out. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly. It would be a lie if she said she wasn't upset. But she also knew that Diamo Xian didn't say it was for her own good. There were too many existences in this different realm which exceeded her knowledge. If he were to pour everything into her mind right now, it would be too late. She probably wouldn't be able to digest it. No matter if he was the Imperial Palace's Diamo Xian or the overlord whom the Heaven Realm's Tian family feared. He was her and only Xian. There was no doubt about this. Since Diamo Xian did not wish to reveal his identity, he definitely had his own considerations. He was worried that she would suffer more than she could handle at her current level. However, her self-adjustment in Diamo Xian's eyes had become, she was heartbroken that he had concealed his identity. Immediately Diamo Xian panicked. In his peach blossom eyes, there was a trace of nervousness. Lil Luo, don't stay silent. His hand cupped her face. His fingertips trembled slightly, carrying a hint of probing. When he realized that Yiqing Luo didn't stop him from touching her, he slowly heaved a sigh of relief as his large palm touched her face even more. Looking at Diamo Xian's anxious expression, Yiqing Luo was about to open her mouth to explain but swallowed it back into her stomach. A trace of craftiness flashed past her long and narrow eyes. The calm expression on her face immediately converged and turned into a look of suppressed anger. Looking at Diamo Xian, her voice trembled slightly. Diamo Xian, what do you want me to say? She raised her eyes and her eyes reddened. She pursed her pink lips tightly as she spat out every single word. Don't tell me you want to hear me say that I know you're not telling me is for my own good? You don't wish for me to suffer any harm and you don't wish for me to be afraid of your identity and leave you? Chapter 1906. Diamo Xian, who had always used his aura to make others speechless, was stuttering at this moment. Facing Yiqing Luo, he naturally didn't dare to use his so-called aura to suppress her. He could only coax and spoil her, wishing that he could hold her in his palms and love her dearly. What Yiqing Luo said had indeed poked out all the worries in his heart. It wasn't that he couldn't tell Yiqing Luo about his identity. He just didn't wish for Yiqing Luo to be troubled or make any changes because of his identity. What he was most afraid of. It was the last point that Yiqing Luo mentioned. She would be afraid of his identity and leave him. Of course, he believed that Yiqing Luo wouldn't be afraid of him because of his identity. But she would leave him. This wasn't to say that Yiqing Luo was someone who would escape when she met with danger. But he understood Yiqing Luo's character too well. If Yiqing Luo knew his identity, she would definitely force herself to become stronger. She would leave him, and when she had grown to a level that was compatible with him, then she would appear again. Diamo Xian couldn't stand a day without Yiqing Luo. But when he saw Yiqing Luo's eyes turning red, staring at him with a reproachful gaze, Diamo Xian's heart was throbbing in pain. This was the first time he had such an uneasy feeling. This was the first time he had such a feeling of worry. Lil Luo, or I don't mean it in that way. If you want to know, A burst of laughter interrupted Diamo Xian's anxious voice. He was stunned as he stopped his voice, looking at Yiqing Luo's smiling face. The young lady's tensed face had softened at this moment. Her curved eyes, narrow and devilish, sparkling with a dazzling luster. She was smiling, bright and gorgeous, a beauty that could topple a city. Diamo Xian knew that he had been teased by Yiqing Luo again. Yiqing Luo laughed as she laid in his arms. Idiot, those words were indeed what I wanted to say. What words? Diamo Xian's brows creased slightly as he hadn't reacted in time. His reaction made Yiqing Luo laugh even more joyfully. I know the current me not knowing your identity is much safer, and I won't let my imagination run wild because of this. She paused for a moment and her arms wrapped around his neck as she beamed and said, It doesn't matter if you don't say it. You just have to remember one sentence: no matter who you are my Yiqing Luo's man, so I will absolutely not leave you. Diamo Xian knew her. How could she not see through Diamo Xian's hidden worries? Since she had decided to be with Diamo Xian, she absolutely did not want any negative emotions or worries to appear between the two of them. She would never leave Diamo Xian, no matter when. Lil Luo. The young lady's sonorous and forceful words, each and every word, struck heavily on Diamo Xian's heart. The worry he had been feeling all this time vanished in an instant. He tightened his arms around the girl in his embrace. But Xian, when I am strong enough, you must personally tell me everything about yourself. Yiqing Luo's brows rose overbearingly as she looked at his eyes seriously. Diamo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles as he spat out a word, All right. I still want to go to the place where you grew up, to understand everything about you. Her identity as a transmigrator, as well as the secret of the 21st century where she grew up, had already been told to him. By then she wanted Diamo Xian to tell her everything, just like how she told him everything about herself today. Chapter 1907. Looking at the young lady's beautiful face, it was filled with a complacent and overbearing expression. Diamo Xian's heart seemed to have been filled by her smile. The lines on his face were so gentle that there was no trace of harshness or coldness. It was filled with pampering and love towards the young lady. He nodded and his voice was extremely gentle. All right. No matter if it was this lifetime or the next lifetime, he would never let go of her. She would belong to him forever and ever. So, until then, he would let Yiqing Luo understand everything about him in detail, including on the bed. After getting Dmo Xian's reply, Yiqing Luo leaned towards his face and planted a big fragrant kiss. Following that, she opened her arms and hugged his muscular body, acting coquettishly in his arms. You're obedient, I'll forgive you for hiding it from me now. She pressed her face against his hard pecs again. She mumbled a few words indistinctly. After all, before this, I had also concealed my identity as a transmigrated girl. If it wasn't for the fact that I had entered the godless array, I don't know how long I would have to hide it. Same to you. The young lady's coquettish action made Dmo Xian's mood improve greatly. He rubbed the young lady's hair, his heart filled with tenderness. This was the lady whom he had his eyes on. Indeed, like what Yiqing Luo had guessed, approximately 1 hour later, large batches of monsters were born on the battle plane. The minute those monsters appeared, they started to tangle with the surrounding monsters. There were even quite a number of monsters, who directly found the 4 humans who were still on the battle plane. 2 pairs of passionate lovers lost the place to talk about love. After the 4 of them killed the monsters which were blocking their way, they gathered together again. Yiqing Luo looked at Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin's tightly intertwined hands, as she gave an ambiguous smile. Yan Xiaoyi was so shy that her face turned crimson red, as she leaned her head towards Xiao Jin's shoulder. Xiao Jin chuckled as he touched the back of his head with a face full of smiles. Qing Luo, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. If it wasn't for you, I would definitely have done more wrong things. Yiqing Luo smiled with her eyes curved. I won't. Xiao Jin didn't react to Yiqing Luo's words. Even if I didn't remind you, you wouldn't do anything stupid. Yiqing Luo revealed her pearly white teeth as she clenched her fists so hard that a cracking sound could be heard. Because I will directly wake you up. Xiao Jin's neck shrunk back as he recalled that when Elder Jin was still around, Yiqing Luo had once said that she wanted to give him a good thrashing, and he instantly became terrified. I've completely woken up now. This thrashing. I don't need to take it, right? That's hard to say. Yiqing Luo smiled insincerely as her eyes curved. Xiao Jin's face darkened, looking like he was furious but did not dare to speak. On the contrary, it was Yan Xiaoyi who felt heartache as she hurriedly pulled Xiao Jin behind her and said with a red face, All right, Qing Luo, don't bully that silly goose. He's originally stupid, and after being bullied by you, he'll become even more stupid. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but teased, Tiske, you haven't even married yet and you're already speaking up for Jin Zi. I. A married sister is like water that has been splashed out, Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi's cheeks turned even redder as she stared at Yiqing Luo resentfully. This adorable look made Yiqing Luo laugh even more happily. She was indeed a young lady in love. Her every action revealed a charming and adorable young lady's look. Alright, stop fooling around. Dmo Xian held Yiqing Luo in a timely manner. If you continue fooling around, the surrounding monsters will all focus their attention on you. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she surveyed the surroundings. As expected, she discovered that the thousands of monsters that had just been born were all looking towards their direction. Chapter 1908. Yiqing Luo's bright eyes flashed as her face revealed a scared expression as she threw herself into Dmo Xian's arms. Oh my, so scary, the pair of love-struck couples. The fake acting made Yan Xiaoyi's lips twitched uncontrollably. Even showing off their affection wasn't like this, right? Before today she had been suppressing the feeling of liking Xiao Jin, suppressing the fact that after being abused by Xiao Jin, she still had to eat Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's various fancy dog food. Was it easy for her? Today she finally managed to pull Xiao Jin along to show off in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo just retaliated like this? Can't we just play around happily? Could they still be sisters happily? Yan Xiaoyi gritted her teeth in anger. But unfortunately, Dmo Xian was very cooperative as he stretched out his hand to hug Yiqing Luo and even patted her back gently. Don't be afraid, I'm here. A certain love-struck couple was speechless. Could they also use dog food to retaliate? The thousands of monsters around them howled in unison. Dmo Xian narrowed his peach blossom eyes as he swept his sleeves slightly. A burst of powerful, profound energy covered the sky and earth as it enveloped the entire empty space. In an instant, the empty space regained its tranquility. Those thousands of monsters seemed as though they had never appeared before. not even a single speck of ashes could be seen. A certain love-struck couple was dumbstruck. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she circled around the man's neck and planted a kiss on his face. God of protection is the best, awesome, a certain love-struck couple. Damn it. They would stop showing off their affection in future, alright? The dog food and whatnot would be taken care of by the two of you, alright? Acting cute and showing off dog food was enough. Yiqing Luo restrained her actions as she looked at Diamo Xian seriously. Ah Xian, let's break the array. We've disappeared for a few days and that bunch of kids in devil class are probably going crazy from anxiety. Diamo Xian rubbed her hair as his expression was calm. Don't worry, even if we didn't make a move to break the array, that person should be letting us out. That person? Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in puzzlement. You're talking about Xishang Lan? No, it should be Godless Island's young master? Diamo Xian only smiled and didn't answer Yiqing Luo's question. Yiqing Luo automatically treated that person as the fake Xishang Lan. Xishang Lan spent a lot of effort to lure them into the soulless formation. How could he let them out so easily? She could tell that Xishang Lan was pretending to be Xishang Lan, using the identity of Yan Xiaoyi's fiancé to get close to her and the devil class. Their goal was definitely not simple. He had his ambitions. If he didn't get what he wanted, Xishang Lan would not give up so easily. Would he really take the initiative to let them leave the soulless formation? Why don't we make a move first to test the waters? Diamo Xian looked at the young lady's face that was deep in thought as his thin lips curved upwards. As soon as he finished speaking, his sleeves fluttered and a shimmering purple light shot out. Bang! Boom! A few deafening explosions reverberated in the void. All of a sudden, the purple light flashed across the pitch-black sky like a bolt of lightning. The airflow was monstrous, as though the air in this plane was affected by this ray of profound light. They felt a little suffocated. Immediately following that, the battle plane shook violently. In the pitch-black void, it seemed as though a huge hole had been torn open. Like a malevolent bloody mouth, it opened its mouth wide, revealing its sharp teeth. Star. Chapter 1909. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, that tear opened wider and wider. The entire battle plane seemed as though it was about to be torn apart, squeezing into other planes. In a split second, the tear had already opened up to a width of about 5 meters. Not only Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin were stunned. Yiqing Luo herself was also stunned. She looked at that tear in disbelief as she asked in a daze, Ah Xian, what is that? This plane, is it really going to collapse? Diamo Xian replied calmly, aren't you in a hurry to get out? This is the way to force him to open the entrance of the godless array. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes, feeling a little lost. Xiao Jin explained by the side, I've once read about the godless array in Huangfu family's books. It said that the godless array is able to connect to all the planes in the world, and is a forbidden array which is not accepted by the world. Once one of the planes merges with another plane, it would break the balance between the various planes. The person who unleashed the array will be punished by the heavenly way, dying without a burial ground, never to be reincarnated. Yiqing Luo understood as she raised her brows and smiled, which means to say, Ah Xian is forcefully tearing the battle plane apart now. Once the planes near the battle plane merges with the battle plane, when the battle plane's monsters start to reproduce again, this group of monsters will also affect the nearby planes, causing chaos. At this time, the Xishang Lan, who unleashed the array, will be punished by the heavenly way. Xiao Jin nodded, that's what I mean. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed out, Ah Xian, your method is really simple and crude, but I like it. Xishang Lan dared to scheme against her. Then he would have to bear the consequences of their retaliation. Sure enough, when the tear gradually opened to about 12 meters or so, Yi Shiwen's eyes widened. Xishang Lan finally couldn't bear the fear of being punished by the heavenly way. An intense ray of light shot down from the top of the battle plane. Following that, they saw that elegant young man standing at the center of the light, looking at them with a gloomy face. Stop! All of you stop right now. Xishang Lan was no longer as gentle as before. His expression was ferocious as he pointed at them agitatedly and roared, This is a formation that I created. If you dare to touch this formation, I will kill all of you in this formation. At this moment he still wanted to scare Yiqing Luo and the others. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the ashen-faced man with a thin layer of sweat on his forehead. She leaned lazily in Diamo Xian's arms and smiled charmingly, Really? Why don't we try and see who dies first? Yiqing Luo. Shishanglan gritted his teeth and roared. Yiqing Luo picked her ears as her brows raised frivolously. Are you relying on sound to make us die in the array? Puqi, Yin Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin laughed out loud. Shishanglan's face was ashen. He could not imagine that his invincible godly array was actually unable to tame Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian. The so-called heart attack formation I had not only failed to take down Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian. On the contrary, it was taken down by Yiqing Luo. What's more, his father had already sent news over, ordering him to immediately open up the entrance of the array and let Yiqing Luo out safely. His father already knew about the matter of him using Godless Island's forbidden arts for himself. And his plan for the array had also failed. Not only had it failed, he had even offended the imperial palace, an overlord whom even his father was wary of. Chapter 1910. His father would never let him off. Everything he had was ruined, he had painstakingly planned for such a long time. He had even tried to get close to that bunch of trash in Devil class. In the end it had ended up in such a state. How could he take it lying down? How could he take it lying down? The ferocious face of Shishanglan was extremely terrifying. He gritted his teeth and glared at the huge hole that had been torn open. He said sternly, "Do you think that you can force me to let you out by using such a method? Don't even think about it." "Young master." Wuxia's voice was heard faintly. "Island master's orders cannot be violated. If you continue to wait, you will be punished by the heavens." "Shut up." Shishanglan berated. "Even if I die, I will drag them along with me." Using the godless array without permission had already violated the godless island's rules. Even if he really opened up the entrance and let Yiqing Luo and the rest out, his father would never let him off so easily. In any case, everything that he had been pursuing had been destroyed. It was completely destroyed. Death was all that awaited him. Then he would bring these people along with him to hell. "Young master, are you crazy?" When Wuxia heard his young master's crazy words, he immediately rushed up and hugged Shishanglan's waist. "How could the island master let you die? You are the island master's favorite young master. If you die, are you going to hand over the position of young master to someone else?" Wuxia's words made Shishanglan's struggling body suddenly stiffen. His eyes widened, filled with panic. He didn't want to. How could he bear to hand over the position of young master to someone else? In order to become the island master of Godless Island, he didn't hesitate to use up his own lifespan to forcibly display the godless array. How could he be willing to give it up to those sanctimonious hypocrites? Just as Shishanglan and Wuxia were arguing endlessly, suddenly there was a vibration from that opening. Suddenly he saw a figure walk in from the entrance. Yiqing Luo saw that person and smiled with raised brows. "Yu Ming, you're just in time. Are you waiting for the right time?" Yu Ming slowly walked to Yiqing Luo's side with a calm expression. Facing Yiqing Luo's ridicule, there was no reaction. He lowered his head, feeling depressed. No one knew if he was thinking or if he was annoyed that the search missile couldn't find what he wanted. It was because of Netherwoman's attitude that he was bitterly disappointed. These were not within the boundaries of Yiqing Luo's concern. Since he didn't say, Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered. Of course, the prerequisite was that he wouldn't have any ideas about her again. This episode made Shishanglan realize the severity of the situation. Wuxia was right. Even if he violated the rules of the Godless Island, as long as he was still the young master of the Godless Island, his father would not punish him severely. If he was really punished by the heavenly Tao because of the godless array, he would never be able to reincarnate. He would really lose more than he gained. Especially when he saw that someone had entered the battle plane through the tear. Shishanglan completely panicked. In the blink of an eye, the beam of light floating in the void covered the tear in the void. The entrance appeared before everyone's eyes. Diamo Xian seemed to be asking for credit as he lowered his head and stuck close to her ear as he whispered, "The entrance is out." Yiqing Luo decisively smoothed his hair and kissed his face. "My guardian god is the best." Diamo Xian was satisfied. The few of them slowly stepped out of that beam of light. It was as if they had entered the godless array for a tour, taking a stroll around. The group of people were unscathed. Just like that, he calmly walked past Shishanglan. Chapter 1911. At the same time, the battle plane, which had already cracked open for nearly 20 meters, was gradually closing up. Following that, the godless array's entrance light was also completely shut at this moment. Shi Shanglan's entire body turned soft as he laid paralyzed on the ground. His eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. Wuxia immediately protected Shi Shanglan with a stern expression. However, after Yiqing Luo and the rest walked out, they didn't even give them half a glance as they directly walked past them and slowly walked out of the secret room. Just as they were nearing the secret room's exit, Diamo Xian halted his footsteps as he glanced sideways. That pair of brilliant peach blossom eyes revealed a piercingly cold glint. Wuxia felt a chill running down his spine as his legs turned soft as he half knelt onto the ground. "Convey to your island lord regarding today's matter, I will personally pay a visit to discuss with him in detail." Saying that, he hugged the young lady in his arms tightly as he walked out of the secret room without turning back, leaving behind two people who were half kneeling on the ground as they broke out in cold sweat. The place where Yiqing Luo and the rest were at was exactly the place where they entered the array. Yiqing Luo had already drawn out the map of the treasure-gathering pavilion in her mind. After a moment, she brought the few of them out of the secret room and returned to the extremely remote sundry room in the treasure-gathering pavilion. There were usually very few people who passed by the sundry room. However, when the few of them just came out from the sundry room, coincidentally, a team of 10 people who were dressed in the guard's uniform walked towards them. When that guard saw Yiqing Luo, his face instantly revealed an overjoyed expression as he shouted at the top of his voice, "Found it, found it! Madame Yiqing Luo has found it!" This howl was heard by Yiqing Luo acutely. Numerous footsteps, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they surged towards their direction. Momentarily, the entire ground was filled with dust as it floated along with the wind. Immediately following that, she saw a huge wave of people charging towards them in an imposing manner. Weren't the siblings Shirua Yu and Shirua Shi right at the front? Following closely behind was Tong Ziqing, Long Yunzhan and the rest. What situation was this? Yiqing Luo and the rest had a dazed expression. Shirua Shi had already pounced into Yiqing Luo's arms as she hugged her tightly. "Sister! You're finally back. Boo-hoo, I thought I lost you." Shirua Shi sounded like she was about to cry. Her tearful and hazy appearance was very lovable. Yiqing Luo immediately stretched out her fingers and brushed away the tears on Shirua Shi's face. "What's wrong?" As he spoke, Shiruoyu, Long Yunzhan, and the others stepped forward. Their gazes started to size up Yiqing Luo. He heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that she had no external injuries. Shiruoyu's face was filled with guilt. "It's all because I didn't manage the treasure-gathering pavilion well that you guys encountered danger. You've been missing for almost 3 days." Long Yunzhan's cold voice could not hide the slight tremble in it. Tong Ziqing's usually cold and elegant face couldn't help but tear up. "Where did you guys go? We've been looking for you for 3 days. Our brothers are dying of anxiety." Behind her, 10 over devil classes students all had red eyes as they looked at Yiqing Luo. He was clearly happily participating in the auction at the Jubao Pavilion. He had not expected that when the guests arrived, they saw Yen Xiaoyi being kidnapped, and following that, Xiao Jin had disappeared. Following that, there was news of Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian disappearing from the Jubao Pavilion. They instantly got anxious. Yen Xiaoyi was kidnapped in front of the guests. Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian must have gone to save Yen Xiaoyi. Chapter 1912. The siblings Shirua Yu and Shirua Shi blamed themselves endlessly. They increased the number of guards to search for Yiqing Luo and the others. Devil classes students also joined the search team. Finally, found them. Yiqing Luo gently touched Shirua Shi's head. Shirua Shi sniffled and squirmed out of Yiqing Luo's arms, pouncing into her own brother's arms. She knew that she wasn't the only one who was worried about Yiqing Luo. Now that she had confirmed her sister's safety, she was assured. Yiqing Luo looked at Shirua Shi's actions as she laughed helplessly. This lass was really so obedient that it made one dote on her. She smiled gently, raised her eyes, and fixed her gaze in front of her. In front of her were faces filled with worry. Her charming eyes blinked as it sparkled with heartache and touched. Her eyelashes were also wet as she tried her best to curl her lips, blossoming into a bright smile as she stretched out her hand towards them. Brothers were back. Her clear and sweet voice was filled with deep emotion. That pair of crystal bright eyes, faintly rippled with tears. Devil classes students finally couldn't hold it in. They swarmed forward as they surrounded Yiqing Luo and the others in groups. They were worried for Yiqing Luo and the others for 2 days. They were finally assured. Luckily everyone was fine. Long Yunjian stood by the side, his azure blue eyes, looking at the excited crowd. His brows couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. After the laughter, someone reacted, "Right, we have to inform the other brothers immediately, they are still trying to find out about your news in South Continent." That person was preparing to leave anxiously when he was stopped by Shiruayu. "Something happened to you in Treasure Gathering Pavilion. As one of the representatives of Treasure Gathering Pavilion, I should bear all the responsibility. Tonight I will set up a banquet at Drifting Fragrance Restaurant. Take it as my apology to Devil Class's students." That Devil Class student looked towards Yi Qing Luo. On seeing Yi Qing Luo nodding, he swiftly scuttled out of Treasure Gathering Pavilion. The entire storeroom started to bustle with noise and excitement. Devil Class's students were chattering incessantly, asking where Yi Qing Luo had been these 2 days. Just as they were in the midst of the joyous noise, suddenly a surprised voice was heard, "Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi." Everyone was startled and looked in the direction of the voice. Yin Xiao Yi falls into Qiao Jin's arms. Under the sunlight, her delicate face was strangely pale, like a fragile doll. "What's going on?" Yi Qing Luo frowned as she pushed the crowd aside and walked over. Qiao Jin hugged Yin Xiao Yi helplessly, his face pale. "I don't know. She just suddenly. Let me take a look first." Baiming Lulu squeezed through the crowd and immediately took Yin Xiao Yi's pulse. After checking his pulse for a long time, Baiming Lulu's face sank and became extremely ugly. Qiao Jin nervously tightened his arms. What's going on? Is Xiao Yi alright?" "She was poisoned." Baiming Lulu's expression was grave as she released Yi Qing Luo's hand and stood up. "This poison is too complicated, I have no way to cure it." "You can't do anything? Lulu, you're the descendant of a divine doctor family, you can't have no way." Qing Luo. Qiao Jin's pupils constricted, and when he heard Baiming Lulu's words, his expression instantly turned ugly, as though he had lost everything. He instinctively sought help from Yi Qing Luo. As long as Yi Qing Luo was around, she would absolutely not let anything happen to Yin Xiao Yi. "Jinzi, calm down, nothing will happen to Xiao Yi." Yi Qing Luo comforted him. Following that, she looked towards the other brothers. "Is Ghost Doctor Master still in South Continent?" Star. Chapter 1913. The students were also shocked by Yin Xiao Yi's sudden collapse. Tong Ziqing was the first to react. "I'll go to the sky room to look for Lord Ghost Doctor." "I'll go." Yi Qing Luo took a look at Yin Xiao Yi's pale face and suddenly recalled the blood which she had come into contact with before she entered the godless array. The blood was also tainted with the poison of the godless island. It was likely that Yin Xiao Yi had already been poisoned since then. It was just that he was afraid that Qiao Jin would be worried, so he suppressed it and did not reveal it. And when she rushed to the battle dimension, she was wholeheartedly thinking about solving their relationship problems, so she didn't notice Yin Xiao Yi's physical problems. The poison that Yin Xiao Yi was inflicted with should be the ultimate poison of Godless Island. Moreover, the poison in Yin Xiao Yi's body and the poison in Qiao Jin's body were on a completely different level. The 100 dispelling pill that she had refined had cured the poison in Qiao Jin's body, but had not been able to clear the poison in Yin Xiao Yi's body. Looks like this poison can only be cured by Master Ghost Doctor. Yi Qing Luo turned her head toward Shiruayu. "Ruayu, can I trouble you to prepare a room for Xiao Yi? I'll bring Master Ghost Doctor over immediately." As she finished speaking, she summoned Shiju and leaped onto Shiju's back before shouting, "Let's go!" Shiju turned into a black afterimage, vanishing before everyone's eyes. Shiju's speed was extremely fast. In just a short moment he had already arrived at the first room. Yi Qing Luo's speed was much faster than the Devil Class students who had rushed back to report. And because of this, the few Devil Class students who were surrounding the Sky Room No. 1, as well as the students and elders from the various academies, all saw a huge Black Panther beast descending from the sky. The woman in red was sitting on the leopard. They were all shocked. These 2 days Yin Xiao Yi had been kidnapped at Jubao Pavilion, and Qiao Jin had disappeared soon after. After that, Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian went searching for Yin Xiao Yi, but they didn't manage to catch a glimpse of them. Almost the entire South Billow continent was turning upside down in search of them. "Madame Qing Luo. It's Madame Qing Luo." The students of the Devil Class stepped forward to welcome them. Before he could express his joy, he heard Yi Qing Luo asking anxiously, "Where's Ghost Doctor Master? Is Madame Qing Luo hurt?" "Lord Ghost Doctor is refining medicine in the medicine refining room." "Madame Qing Luo, you." Before they could finish their words, suddenly, a hurricane appeared in front of him, blowing sand into his face. They hurriedly raised their arms to cover their faces. But when the hurricane subsided, there was no sign of Yiqing Luo at all. The students were all stunned as they recalled Yiqing Luo's earlier question. Could it be that someone was injured? Continue treating the ghost doctor? On the other side, Yiqing Luo hurriedly rushed towards the main courtyard's alchemy room. Outside the alchemy room, there were more than 30 alchemy apprentices in cyan robes. The vice principal was standing at the side, talking to a gloomy-looking old man about something. It seemed like they were having a quarrel. The huge black leopard attracted everyone's attention. Vice President's gaze fell from the leopard beast onto Yiqing Luo. His eyes were filled with joy as he said, "Little Luo, you're finally back." Yiqing Luo leapt down from Xian's back as she took quick steps towards Vice President, stopping him from continuing with the conventional greetings. "Vice President, where's my master? I need to talk to him about something urgent." Before the Vice President could say anything, the gloomy-looking old man by the side gave her an extremely disdainful look. "You're that ghost doctor's disciple? Your aptitude isn't that great. I thought this so-called ghost doctor's foresight was really good." That weird tone made Yiqing Luo's slender brows suddenly creased. Star. Chapter 1914. Vice President saw the change in Yiqing Luo's expression and immediately laughed dryly as he pulled the elderly man away. Following that, he put on a smile as he looked at Yiqing Luo. "Ghost Doctor is in the pill refining room and has already been here for an entire day." Yiqing Luo nodded her head and directly walked towards the direction of the pill refining room. The Vice Dean immediately stopped her. "Girl, even though you're the Ghost Doctor's disciple, but before the Ghost Doctor went in, he specifically warned us that no one is allowed to go in and disturb him while he's refining pills." He paused and revealed a troubled look. "You should also know your master's personality." "I know." Yiqing Luo pushed away the Vice President's hand. "Xiao Yi is injured." Vice President was stunned as he recalled that the reason why Yiqing Luo had disappeared for the past 2 days was to look for the kidnapped Yan Xiao Yi. He retracted his hand and didn't stop her. "Don't think that just because you're that ghost doctor's disciple, you can enter the medicine refining room. That ghost doctor style is really big. In someone else's territory, she dares to chase away the owner and forcibly occupy the medicine refining room. This is the first time I've seen such a shameless medicine master." The old man next to him spoke in a strange tone. His face was full of contempt and disdain. Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused. She glanced sideways at the old man coldly and the corners of her lips curled into a cold smile. An apothecary at the level of a medicine ancestor? When the old man heard this, a smug look appeared on his face. "You've heard of this old man's name?" "That's right, I am the only master apothecary at the medicine grandmaster level in the headquarters. You can call me Master Yao Lao." Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as her eyes were filled with ridicule. "What a coincidence, my master is also an elder-level alchemist." Yao Lao was slightly stunned, not understanding the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words. The next moment, Yiqing Luo's chilly voice cleared his doubts. "Unfortunately, in a situation where both of us are at the same level, you are not even comparable to a single finger of my master. To think that you have the title of a medicinal grandmaster, it's just an empty shell." Leaving this sentence behind, Yiqing Luo headed towards the direction of the pill refining room without even turning her head back. No matter how Yao Lao cursed at her from behind, Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with him. He didn't know how long the poison in Xiao Yi's body would last. She did not have the time to waste with Yao Lao here. If it wasn't for Yao Lao constantly insulting his master ghost doctor, she didn't even want to pay attention to it. Yao Lao took some time before he understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. His old face instantly turned steely green as he clenched his teeth and rolled up his sleeves, wanting to settle the score with Yiqing Luo. Vice President stopped Yao Lao, but he had no choice but to admit Yiqing Luo's words. They were both medicine grandmasters. However, the ghost doctor's name had spread far and wide. She was even called the Ghost Hand Doctor. It could be said that if it wasn't for the fact that Yiqing Luo had mentioned that Ghost Doctor was merely an elder level, he probably thought that the Ghost Doctor was either a medicine emperor or a medicine immortal. Looking at the medicine faction's alchemists, whom they had always been proud of, their faces were twisted with jealousy. The Vice President sighed helplessly. Yiqing Luo walked directly into the pill refining room without any restraint. The surrounding alchemists looked at each other in dismay, but due to Yiqing Luo's imposing manner, they didn't dare to stop her. The Ghost Doctor stayed in the medicine refining room for a day. At least 3 people had been forcefully thrown out by the Ghost Doctor. This young lady actually dared to barge in? The junior alchemists were all guessing when Yiqing Luo would be thrown out by that emotionally unstable ghost doctor. The junior alchemists specially stood on the left and right sides, leaving an empty space in front of the door. But after waiting for some time, that tightly shut door didn't open at all. Chapter 1915. The pill refinement room was filled with smoke. A huge cauldron floated in midair, and a raging fire burned below it. A white-robed figure with disheveled hair stood under the cauldron. Yiqing Luo took a look at the burning cauldron as she pursed her pink lips. "Ghost Doctor Master." The ghost doctor didn't seem to hear her voice and didn't turn around. At this time, the concoction of the elixir had already reached the latter part. With the ghost doctor's abilities, there was no need for her to guard the cauldron at all times. Ghost Doctor ignored her, and Yiqing Luo knew that he was annoyed with her. She had only just recovered, yet she had already put herself in danger. Yiqing Luo's tone softened as she slowly walked to Ghost Doctor's side, raising her head together with him as she looked at the cultivation furnace. "Master Ghost Doctor, the people from Godless Island have attacked me." Yiqing Luo explained the reason for her disappearance for 2 days. The Ghost Doctor's body stiffened. Yiqing Luo stood very close to him and could feel the change in Ghost Doctor's breathing. He heard her voice. Yiqing Luo's hand slowly hugged his arm as her voice was a little soft. "Ghost Doctor Master, I've been with Xian for the past 2 days, not leaving him by even half a step. I also didn't rely on the fact that you've treated all my injuries, to act recklessly and recklessly." The Ghost Doctor's body stiffened, as though he was extremely unnatural and not used to Yiqing Luo's nearness. "Master Ghost Doctor, look at how cute and adorable I am trying to please you. Can you help me please?" Yiqing Luo hugged Ghost Doctor's arm and started shaking it. The Ghost Doctor truly doted on her. She also believed that the Ghost Doctor would not ignore the students of Devil class. Otherwise, with the Ghost Doctor's personality, he would have long wished to return to the West Continent, return to his own medicine refining room, and live his life of refining medicine. How could he possibly remain on the South Waves continent? He stayed behind because he wasn't sure if the missing Yiqing Luo and the others had met with any danger. When Yiqing Luo and the others returned, they could treat them at the first instance. Yiqing Luo had long seen through Ghost Doctor's cold on the outside but warm on the inside. As expected, towards Yiqing Luo's act of acting cute, Ghost Doctor ultimately couldn't stand it. Under Yiqing Luo's reluctance, she was dragged out of the pill refining room. The door opened. Plop plop plop, sounds could be heard. The 30 or so young alchemists were lying on the ground. On seeing that it wasn't only Yiqing Luo who walked out, Ghost Doctor was with her. The junior medicine masters were so scared that they trembled and knelt on the ground. Lord Ghost Doctor." They had thought that eavesdropping and peeking at the Ghost Doctor refining medicine would definitely anger the Ghost Doctor, who had a violent temper and would throw people out of the refining room at the slightest provocation. In the past, when they peeped at Yao Lao refining medicine, they would be punished by Yao Lao when they were discovered. However, the Ghost Doctor didn't even look at them. He walked straight past them and into the front yard. Just as the junior apothecaries were feeling extremely perturbed, they saw the beautiful girl beside the Ghost Doctor reveal a devastatingly beautiful smile at them. "There are still pills refined by my master in the medicine refinement room. Take a good look. Once the refinement is successful, these pills will be a gift from my master to you young alchemists." After saying that, he turned his head and bade farewell to the Vice Dean, then pulled the Ghost Doctor onto Shiju's back and swaggered off. The eyes of the young alchemists lit up. A gift from the Ghost Doctor? Not only did the Ghost Doctor not punish them, he even gave them a gift? The junior apothecaries flocked as they rushed into the pill refining room. Chapter 1916. Yao Lao's undignified look made Vice President frown slightly. Yao Lao even rolled up his sleeves and was about to rush into the pill refining room to chase those junior alchemists out. Vice President had no choice but to stop Yao Lao's extreme actions. How could he not tell that Yiqing Luo was intentionally pulling aggro for Yao Lao? Yao Lao was the only grandmaster in the main courtyard's pill refining room. These junior alchemists were under his control. Yiqing Luo's actions earlier had completely succeeded in making those junior alchemists extremely dissatisfied with Yao Lao. If Yao Lao were to go in and chase them out at this moment, and stop them from taking Ghost Doctor's gift, it would probably cause those young junior alchemists to have a strong backlash. By then, Yao Lao would really lose the hearts of those junior alchemists. However, Vice President couldn't blame Yiqing Luo for doing this. After all, Yao Lao's actions today indeed didn't seem like something a Grandmaster Alchemist should do. He sighed softly and tried to persuade Yao Lao in every possible way before he managed to persuade him. Yiqing Luo was on Shiju's back as she explained Yan Xiaoyi's current symptoms and her guess towards the poison. Hence when they reached Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Ghost Doctor went directly to Yan Xiaoyi's room to take her pulse. Luckily, after Yan Xiaoyi was poisoned, she had swallowed Yiqing Luo's 100 dispelling pill which suppressed a portion of the poison. Following that, a portion of the poison was removed by a mysterious force. Now the remaining poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body wasn't much. Mentioning that mysterious force, Yiqing Luo subconsciously took a look at Xiao Jin. The force which was able to remove a portion of the poison should be that golden ray which was brought out when Xiao Jin released his golden eyes energy. Moreover, they were now in Treasure Gathering Pavilion. What kind of place was Treasure Gathering Pavilion? They had all kinds of rare and precious medicinal herbs. With Ghost Doctor's help, there were all kinds of medicinal herbs. The poison in Yan Xiaoyi's body wasn't considered as serious. Hearing this news, everyone in Devil Class heaved a sigh of relief as their suspenseful hearts were all put down. Taking a look at Ghost Doctor who was performing acupuncture, Yiqing Luo stood up and quietly dispersed the surrounding students. 50 over people left the room. Yiqing Luo took a look at Shi Ruoyu and smiled lightly. Tonight Ruoyu will be booking a banquet at Floating Fragrance Restaurant, everyone don't forget. The Ghost Doctor had personally said that Yan Xiaoyi was fine. Yiqing Luo also didn't wish for all the students to be like her, constantly tensed up in emotions. These 2 days the 4 of them had gone missing, and then they were busy taking care of Yan Xiaoyi. It was time to relax. Sure enough, when he heard that there was a feast to eat tonight, he was startled. The eyes of the young students sparkled with excitement. Yiqing Luo asked them to go down first to tidy herself up. Piaoxiang Restaurant was the largest restaurant in Gufeng City. If they wanted to book a restaurant for a meal, even if they didn't have to be extravagant, they had to at least be dressed neatly. The students cheered and dispersed to prepare to bathe, change their clothes and wait for the feast. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were filled with smiles as she sent the students off with her eyes before she looked at Shi Ruoyu with a light smile. Ruoyu, I have something to discuss with you, is it convenient? Shi Ruoyu seemed to have guessed that Yiqing Luo would look for him for a private talk as he nodded slightly. I've already prepared the pantry, you can go over anytime. Yiqing Luo smiled as she held Dmo Xian's hand and followed behind Shi Ruoyu, heading towards the direction of the tea room. Yiqing Luo looked at the surroundings as she suppressed her voice. Has Yu Ming left? Ever since they came out from the sundry room, Yu Ming had automatically disappeared. Yiqing Luo only agreed to bring him back to Nirvana Realm. As for what Yu Ming wanted to do after that, Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to bother. Only Yu Ming had left silently. Could it be that he was plotting something in the dark? Star. Chapter 1917. Dmo Xian hugged her tightly and saw the worry on her face as he consoled her calmly. He won't be able to stir up any big waves, moreover. Pausing for a moment, Dmo Xian seemed to be organizing his words. After some time he opened his mouth. He is a heartbroken person. Perhaps not long later he will come back and look for you. Yiqing Luo recalled the scene of Yu Ming and Yu Nu's conversation in the mirror. Indeed, it was heartbreaking. With Dmo Xian's words, she didn't think any further as her vision fell onto Shi Ruoyu who was leading the way. The 3 of them went to the pantry. The 2 of them sat down and Shi Ruoyu sat opposite them. I won't beat around the bush. Ruoyu, can you tell me which powerhouse is the mysterious powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion? Yiqing Luo asked directly. No matter how tactful she was. Based on Shi Ruoyu's intelligence, he must have guessed that she would ask this question. Indeed, Shi Ruoyu's face didn't reveal any astonished expression, as though it was within his expectations. His handsome face revealed a tinge of guilt. As the eldest young master of the Shi family, I can't divulge any secrets of Treasure Gathering Pavilion. Yiqing Luo was already mentally prepared for this. After all, Treasure Gathering Pavilion was the #1 auction house in the South Continent. As the Shi family's powerhouse on the surface, Shi family could rest assured to hand over the auction house's matters to a 17 or 18-year-old Shi Ruoyu to handle. This was enough to prove Shi Ruoyu's ability and means. Shi Ruoyu wasn't that kind of hot-blooded youngster. He wouldn't do anything for his brothers or for the sake of friendship. Naturally, he wouldn't reveal the mysterious powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion. As for the powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion, Yiqing Luo already had an answer in her heart. But she wanted to confirm one last time. After all, this concerned her and her brother's safety. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's worried expression, Shi Ruoyu clenched his fists and continued, "But, as brothers I can give you some simple hints." Yi Qing Luo suddenly raised her eyes and fixed her gaze on Shi Ruoyu. "Then, I'll ask my guess, you only need to nod or shake your head, how about that?" Shi Ruoyu smiled as he nodded. Yi Qing Luoyu directly asked her initial suspicion. "The powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion is Shishanglan?" Shi Ruoyu was stunned and nodded after a while, as though he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to be able to guess it accurately. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes and asked again, "Moreover, that Shishanglan is actually not the real Shi family's young master. He's the young master of Godless Island." When Yi Qing Luo's words landed, Shi Ruoyu stood up with a thump. The force was so great that even the chair he was sitting on was knocked over. He was totally unaware as his eyes opened wide, looking at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. After all, a child was still a child. No matter how smart he was. No matter how capable he was. After all, he had experienced too little. Shi Ruoyu's expression confirmed that Yi Qing Luo's guess was completely correct. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as she met Shi Ruoyu's eyes without blinking. Her voice was suppressed as it revealed a trace of bewitchment, which is to say, the powerhouse behind Treasure Gathering Pavilion is Godless Island. Yan Xiaoyi could be kidnapped in front of everyone in Jubao Pavilion. Later the guests found out and informed Shi Ruoyu. But during the kidnapping, why didn't anyone inform Shi Ruoyu? There was only one explanation. Even if someone kidnapped Yan Xiaoyi in front of everyone in the eyes of outsiders, it didn't look like a kidnapping. Chapter 1918. But later on, after Yan Xiaoyi, Yi Qing Luo and the other two disappeared from Treasure Gathering Pavilion, those who saw Yan Xiaoyi being taken away then realized that it was a kidnapping. After that, the place where Yan Xiaoyi was imprisoned was the secret chamber of the Jubao Pavilion. There was another hidden room inside the hidden room. Furthermore, a soulless spirit formation had already been set up there. The Godless Array formation was the forbidden array formation of the Godless Island. If he wanted to successfully set up the formation, he would need to prepare at least 30 to 50 days in advance. He was someone who could move freely through the Treasure Gathering Pavilion, set up a formation, and knew everything about the Treasure Gathering Pavilion like the back of his hand. Other than the Treasure Gathering Pavilion, who else could it be? On the surface there was the Shi family and the Chu family. In that case, the young island master of Godless Island must be the force behind Jubao Pavilion. If it was Godless Island. The rumor that the power behind Jubao Pavilion was so powerful that no one could defeat it was also true. Shi Ruoyu put his hands on the table, his face full of surprise and disbelief. How did you know? Qing Luo, how did you guess it? The shock and astonishment in the youth's eyes were pure. Yi Qing Luo stood up as she smiled lightly, because we've been trapped in the Godless Array for the past few days, so I'm more or less clear about the matters regarding the Godless Island. Godless Array? Shi Ruoyu's body stiffened. Godless Island actually used such a vicious array to deal with you? Godless Island. Ruoyu. Yi Qing Luo suddenly turned serious as she called out his name. Shi Ruoyu was still in a trance. You don't have to interfere in this matter. Yi Qing Luo looked straight into Shi Ruoyu's eyes. Godless Island is a force outside of Nirvana realm. Anyone who walks out from the island is much more powerful than us. As the future head of the Shi family, you cannot have any conflict with Godless Island. To Shi Ruoyu, she was merely his benefactor who had saved his life in the flame lair. Shi Ruoyu was not willing to risk his life for her and abandon his family. What's more, the Shi family only had two descendants, him and Shi Ruoshi. Yi Qing Luo liked this pair of siblings from the Shi family from the bottom of her heart. She naturally did not wish for the two of them to offend the Godless Island because of her and become the target of the Godless Island. But Shi Ruoyu knew that Yi Qing Luo's suggestion to the Shi family was the best choice. But Yi Qing Luo was his benefactor. And Shi Ruoshi liked Yi Qing Luo so much. If he knew that Godless Island wanted to deal with Yi Qing Luo, he still pretended that nothing had happened and continued to collaborate with Godless Island to manage Treasure Pavilion. Wasn't that too inhumane? As if she could see through Shi Ruoyu's thoughts, Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head. I'm already very happy that you're worried for me. Don't think too much about it. Even if you interfere now, it won't hurt Godless Island at all. On the contrary, it will affect the Shi family. You just need to control the power of the Treasure Gathering Pavilion in your hands. After that, we'll think of a way to screw over the Godless Island. A sly and evil smile appeared on her face. A scheming look flashed in his eyes. She laughed lightly. It's not a bad choice to use money to pay for the harm that you've caused me. Shi Ruoyu pursed his lips as he clenched his fists tightly and sat back heavily on the chair. He knew that what Yiqing Luo said made sense. He was interfering now to stand up for Yiqing Luo. The final result might be that Godless Island would be unscathed. Chapter 1919. Shi Ruoyu finally lowered his head and listened to Yiqing Luo's suggestion. All along he thought that he was considered young and promising, at least he could rely on his own ability to protect the people he wanted to protect. But in the flame nest, he felt his own insignificance and understood the logic that there was always someone better out there. But now, listening to Yiqing Luo's words, Shi Ruoyu increasingly felt that his ability was not as big as what he had imagined. He pursed his lips tightly, a flame in his heart was burning at this moment. After comforting Shi Ruoyu, Yiqing Luo brought Dmo Xian and left the tea room. On the way to Yan Xiaoyi's room, Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at the calm Dmo Xian. Xian, what do you think Godless Island's motive is? Godless Island was a plane outside of Nirvana realm. Its overall ability was above Nirvana realm. But they kept coming to the lower realm and their target was obviously her. The last time when she just entered Heavenly Academy, she met Wu Sansha who tried to snatch the Profound Phoenix Ring. This time they made use of Yan Xiaoyi to set her up, luring her into the Godless Array. Could it be? He simply wanted her to be attacked by the Formation I in the Soulless Formation and lose her heart and soul? No. She remembered, the Array I once said that it wasn't a coincidence that she returned to the 21st century in the Godless Array. But someone expended their own power to send her to this plane. Which meant that person was from Godless Island. What role did Yu Ming play in this? Or in other words, Godless Island sent her to the 21st century, so that Yu Ming could use her Yi family's bloodline to enter the ancestor's tomb? Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but feel chills down her spine. This also meant that Godless Island had long known of her identity as a transmigrator. Moreover, she had something that the Godless Island wanted. Or in other words, Godless Island wanted the Yi family's ancestor's item. The more she thought about it, the more terrifying it was. Just as Yiqing Luo was shivering and hugging her own arms, her body had been enveloped in a circle of warmth. The boiling hot chest scorched her delicate body. A warm big palm pressed down on her head. Little Luo, no matter what Godless Island thinks, I will not let Godless Island have any chance to hurt you. A voice that was as mellow as fine wine gently rang in his ears, easily soothing the anxiety and uneasiness in Yiqing Luo's heart. His hands encircled her waist. His kiss landed on the space between her eyebrows. Godless Island caused too much of a commotion this time. They won't do anything for a while. I won't interfere too much with the matters of the lower domain. I will arrange for the Emperor Palace's disciples to investigate the Godless Island. Yes. Yiqing Luo responded as her arms wrapped around his waist, burying her head in his arms. Xian, I will definitely work hard to become stronger. So strong that even Godless Island doesn't dare to have any ideas on me. I know you don't want me to interfere too much with you. You need the opportunity to grow independently. Dmo Xian said warmly, so I will not stop your growth. You only need to remember, no matter what, I will always be by your side. My protector, my strong backing. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into a smile as she tiptoed and planted a kiss on his thin lips. I will not let you down. Her current ability was not enough for her to become enemies with Godless Island. Just like what she advised Shi Ruoyu. Chapter 1920. She would go to the Godless Island one day. Furthermore, by then she would let Godless Island know that if anyone dared to touch her, Yiqing Luo or her brothers, there would be consequences. He didn't want to turn that Godless Island into a wasteland. Her name was not Yiqing Luo. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the young girl, his eyes filled with battle intent, blazing with fire. He couldn't help but curl his thin lips and smile in his eyes. It was indeed his little Luo heir. He would not be impulsive. If Lil Luo had to find trouble with Godless Island because of this, or if he wanted Godless Island to give him an explanation, even if he didn't agree with it, he would also follow Lil Luo's wishes. Even if he interfered in the matters of the lower realm, he would not hesitate. Luckily, his Lil Luo knew how to recognize her own strength. His forbearance now was not cowardice but wisdom. This would only strengthen Yiqing Luo's inner heart. When he had enough strength, he gave his opponent a fatal blow. Taking action personally was the real revenge. Night, floating fragrance restaurant. The spacious restaurant seemed to be extremely empty. However, it did not affect the liveliness of the restaurant. Devil Class's students, as well as those guards who had put in effort to search for Yi Qing Luo and the others for the past 2 days, were seated at 10 over tables. Amidst the bustle, the dean, the vice dean, and a few other deans who had yet to leave the South Wave continent also came to ask for wine. The news that Shi Ruoyu had booked the entire First Fragrance restaurant and was inviting the Devil Class students to a banquet. It had almost spread throughout the entire Valley Wind City. Those who wanted to build a relationship with the Devil Class naturally took this opportunity to rush over to fawn on them. Therefore, the group of people followed behind the dean and vice dean. Among the few Academy's directors, Yi Qing Luo also saw Heavenly Academy's director, as well as the 2 elders Yun Xiang and Yun Duan. Yi Qing Luo's matters, as well as the Blazing Flame Nest's matters, were all related to the Heavenly Academy. The people from the Heavenly Academy were still in the South Continent and could not return to the West Continent. Looking at the Heavenly Dean and Yun Xiang, the light in his eyes was extremely complicated, filled with jealousy and disdain. On the other hand, Yun Duan looked at the people coming and going in the restaurant with a satisfied smile on his face. Yi Qing Luo was able to have such status and prestige today. As the elders of the Heavenly Academy, they should feel proud. Even if the Heavenly Academy had 2 students who colluded with the dark forces. But Yi Qing Luo's limelight had completely suppressed this matter. However, the Heavenly Dean and Yun Xiang were not happy at all. The dark forces were completely annihilated. This also meant that he would lose the protection of the dark forces. He had spent a lot of energy in the dark world and had to bow down to them. But now he didn't get any benefits. All these were Yi Qing Luo's fault. How could the dean be happy about this? Yun Xiang couldn't stand Yi Qing Luo's complacent face. Recalling that he had once caused quite a bit of trouble for Yi Qing Luo in the academy. Now that Yi Qing Luo had gained power, wouldn't she want to take revenge on him? Moreover, Shi Ruoyu was hosting a banquet today. Not a single Devil Class student actually invited them? Where would they put their faces? However, no matter how much resentment he felt in his heart, they had to put on a smile and shamelessly come over. Because, the ultimate goal of this student exchange. But for the sake of the best academy, there was Yi Qing Luo in the Heavenly Academy. There was an 80% possibility that this year's Best Academy would fall into the hands of the Heavenly Academy. For the title of Best Academy. Chapter 1921. However, the entire restaurant was extremely lively. Countless of people surrounded the Devil Class students, and even the principal and vice principal were squeezed into the crowd. The Heavenly Dean couldn't even squeeze through. Alright, stop staring. Yun Duan caressed his white beard. Find a corner and sit first. Yun Xiang retracted his gaze and his old face showed some uneasiness and anger. In any case, you are still a student of the Heavenly Academy. Just a little bit of fame and you even threw us to the back of your mind. The Heavenly Dean restrained the ruthlessness in his eyes, followed behind Yun Duan, and found a table in the corner to sit down. There were at least 200 people in the restaurant. They could not show even the slightest bit of dissatisfaction. Otherwise, if he was caught by someone with ulterior motives, this would cause quite a bit of trouble. After sitting down, Yun Duan raised his teacup and glanced at Yun Xiang leisurely. She relied on her own abilities to lead the students of the Devil Class and gain everyone's respect. It has nothing to do with us. She is now relying on her fame to leave the Heavenly Academy. That's understandable. Have you also been bewitched by her? Yun Xiang's face darkened. Although he was usually afraid of the First Elder, at this moment he really could not hold it in. Yun Duan sneered, Yun Xiang, this is why you haven't broken through after 20 years. You're too narrow-minded, you won't be able to achieve anything great. Yun Xiang's face darkened as he tightened his grip on the teacup. Alright. Don't let the other academies laugh at us. The president of Nantao Academy is still here. The president of Shangshuan, who was annoyed by the noise, furrowed his brows and rebuked. He shot a cold glance at Nantao's dean who was seated below Yi Qing Luo's table, as he felt more and more infuriated, feeling that Yi Qing Luo was intentionally going against Heavenly Academy. They knew that the Heavenly Academy and Nantao Academy were enemies. Every year they competed for the title of the Best Academy. Yi Qing Luo actually placed Nantao Academy under her seat. Whereas their Heavenly Academy, the Heavenly Academy where the Devil Class was located, was still sitting in this corner with no one interested. At this moment, a loud noise suddenly came from the surroundings. About 100 people, armed with weapons, barged into the Drifting Fragrance restaurant. The lively atmosphere came to an abrupt halt at this moment. Everyone's eyes were focused on the crowd that had suddenly appeared. Those people were all dressed in black. The weapon in his hand shone with a cold glint. His eyes were vicious, as if he was looking at a dead man. Yiqing Luo pushed aside the few directors who had rushed up to her to propose a toast to her as she squinted her eyes and swept a glance at those 100 over black-robed men as her slender brows rose slightly. She stood up, her posture languid, her long and narrow eyes calm without a hint of panic. "Who are you people? Do you know what place this is?" Yiqing Luo's chilly voice sounded leisurely in the quiet restaurant. Even if it was a cold interrogation. They all sounded like pearls and jades falling onto a plate, extremely pleasing to the ear. A group of people walked in through the open door. The leader of the group wore a navy blue robe with a belt inlaid with gold. At a glance, one could tell that it was a jade artifact of high quality. Wasn't that Prime Minister's son whom Yiqing Luo had met once outside the treasure-gathering pavilion? Behind Prime Minister's son were Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she squinted her eyes meaningfully. Prime Minister's son was actually still in South Continent? Didn't he bid for the sky-returning primordial serene grass with the price of 70 million gold coins? Chapter 1922. One had to know that even though he was the Prime Minister of the East Wave Continent. However, this was still the territory of the Southern Waves Continent. In his hand was a medicinal herb that was worth 70 million gold coins, enough to raise one's chi. It would definitely attract those desperados who would fight for it with no regard for their lives. Seeing that Prime Minister's son was still in the South Wave Continent, Qin Lai's heart skipped a beat. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but sigh. Was she too good at attracting hatred? In order to stop her, Prime Minister's son risked his life to stay on the South Tide Continent? Should she say that she was very honored? Yo, what kind of wind blew Prime Minister's son over? Yiqing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes as she crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking at Prime Minister's son with a smile which didn't look like a smile. That tone made people feel inexplicably like it was a necessary opening line for a brothel keeper. Prime Minister's son's face was steely green as he looked coldly at Yiqing Luo. His gaze was like a knife, extremely sharp. "Yiqing Luo, you despicable, shameless villain." Yiqing Luo wasn't angry at all as she gave a light smile. "Prime Minister's son inexplicably rushed to Floating Fragrance Restaurant and insulted me as a vile person at the banquet which young master she had arranged for me. Is this the behavior that Prime Minister's son as an adult should have?" Following Yiqing Luo's words, everyone's gaze towards Prime Minister's son was instantly filled with disdain. Principal retracted the benevolence on his face as he slowly got up and walked behind Yiqing Luo as he looked at Prime Minister's son in a dignified manner. "Prime Minister's son, this lord respects you as the East Continent's Prime Minister and doesn't wish to affect the relationship between the two continents. If you're in South Waves Continent and act in such an overbearing manner, bullying my students, then don't blame this lord for not taking into consideration the relationship between the two continents." Vice President had already walked behind Yiqing Luo. Like two guardian gods, guarding Yiqing Luo on both sides. Prime Minister's son's expression changed slightly. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He raised his hand and pointed at Yiqing Luo as he clenched his teeth and said, "You gave up on the sky-returning primordial serene grass in the Treasure Pavilion's auction, but after I used 7 million gold coins to take away the sky-returning primordial serene grass, you led a bunch of devil-class students to intercept me and snatch away the sky-returning primordial serene grass." The more he spoke, the angrier he sounded. It was obvious that he was furious. As soon as these words came out, the surroundings went into an uproar. There were also quite a number of people who were present at the Jubao Pavilion. The situation that day was very clear. 70 million gold coins worth of heaven-returning origin serene grass was Prime Minister's son's lifeblood. Now that it had been snatched away, it was no wonder that Prime Minister's son would disregard everything and rush over to Floating Fragrance Restaurant to question Yiqing Luo. However, did Yiqing Luo look like someone who would lead devil-class's students to snatch Prime Minister's son? They were all students. Prime Minister's son's goal in coming to the South Tide Continent this time was to retrieve the heavenly origin serene grass. He had brought at least 500 profound practitioners who were at the Earth Profound Realm and above with him. No matter what, he couldn't convince anyone. Seeing the suspicious gazes of the people around him, Prime Minister's son became even more irritated. "I'm the Prime Minister of the East Water Continent. Why would I lie to you about this?" The sky-recovering primordial serene grass was indeed forcefully snatched away by Yiqing Luo leading the devil class. I spent 70 million gold coins to bid for that herb. If Yi Qing Luo doesn't hand over the medicinal herb today, everyone present here, don't blame me for unintentionally hurting you. Bang. Bang. One after another, sounds of slamming the table rang throughout the hall. Each of the Academy's directors had already stood up as they stared coldly at Prime Minister Sunday. In that case, Prime Minister Sun intends to make a move against us? Although I'm just a small director, but since Prime Minister Sun insists on going against this Academy, I will absolutely not back off. Star. Chapter 1923. Various academies started to express their protection towards Yi Qing Luo. As long as Prime Minister Sun made a move, that was to become enemies with all the academies. These academies, if it was just one academy, Prime Minister Sun wouldn't even bother about them. But 10 over academies added together. That was equivalent to offending the various continents. Most of the forces. What's more, there were 3 academies which were the East Continent's academies. At this moment, they stood on Yi Qing Luo's side without any hesitation. The expression on Prime Minister Sun's face turned extremely ugly and gloomy. And Yi Qing Luo stood in the middle of everyone's protection, her lips curled into an extremely faint smile. In Prime Minister Sun's eyes, that smile was ridiculing him. His face flushed red, and the taut string in his mind suddenly snapped. Just imagine, exhausting his family fortune to bid for the sky-returning primordial serene grass. It could give him a chance to break through to become a sky mystic overlord, and become the world's revered target. But unfortunately, just as his mind was filled with illusions of himself becoming a sky mystic overlord, the sky-returning primordial serene grass was forcefully snatched by a bunch of young lads. This didn't just destroy his dream of being a supreme being. It also gave him a tight slap on his face. If he let the devil class off, he, Prime Minister Sun's awe-inspiring name, would become a joke in the pugilistic world. He had an illustrious reputation. How could he possibly endure it? He would become a joke? Yi Qing Luo. Today these directors will plead on your behalf. As long as you obediently hand over the sky-returning primordial serene grass, I will not pursue the matter of you targeting me and snatching the sky-returning primordial serene grass. He took a deep breath and suppressed the fury in his heart, making the final compromise. At this moment, there was no benefit for him to go head-to-head with a bunch of Academy's directors. As long as he obtained the sky-returning primordial serene grass and advanced to the sky mystic overlord, he would not let any of these directors who stood on Yi Qing Luo's side off. Prime Minister Sun thought. This was his last concession. Smart people would know what to choose at this moment. But a faint laughter was heard. That fiery red-robed young lady's eyes were filled with smiles. Because of her smile, a pair of long and narrow eyes curved even more devilishly. The people around her couldn't help but sink into her smile. What are you laughing at? Prime Minister Sun shouted in a deep voice. How could she still smile at such a time? Did she really think that she could do whatever she wanted just because she had the protection of the deans of the various academies? I'm laughing at how old Prime Minister Sun is. He's not important anymore. He doesn't even have a brain anymore. Yi Qing Luo covered her mouth as she cast a contemptuous sidelong glance at Prime Minister Sun. Your sky-recovering vitality serene grass is missing and you're certain that devil class took it away. If I were to say that my god relic is missing, does that mean that you, Prime Minister Sun, snatched it away? As she said that, she sneered, it's just a mouth, you can say whatever you want. You don't want to admit it? Prime Minister Sun roared angrily. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Why should I admit to something that I haven't done? Alright. Good. Prime Minister Sun's face flushed red with anger. This is the person you're protecting. If I can't get the sky-recovering vitality serene grass today, then don't blame me for using brute force. Those directors looked at Prime Minister Sun's infuriated face and their hearts couldn't help but started to beat like drums. How important was the sky-recovering vitality serene grass to Prime Minister Sunday? They had naturally heard of it before. If it wasn't for the sky-recovering vitality serene grass, Prime Minister Sun would have returned to the East Continent long ago to work hard to break through to the sky-profound realm. Chapter 1924. Looking at Prime Minister Sun's hysterical look. He was afraid that his returning Heaven Yuan serene grass was really lost. Even the various academies' deans joined hands and stood on Yi Qing Luo's side. Prime Minister Sun was at a loss. Apparently, he had confirmed that his returning Heaven Yuan serene grass was snatched by the devil class. If it was really the devil class who had snatched the returning Heaven Yuan serene grass. Even if they really admired Yiqing Luo's ability. However, they would not blindly support this kind of act of helping the evildoer to do evil. The 10 over Dean's expressions loosened. Yun Duan, who was sitting in the corner, suddenly stood up and broke the deadlock. Prime Minister's son, student Yiqing Luo's words have indeed made you unhappy, but there is one thing that she is right about. Dozens of pairs of eyes looked towards Yun Duan. Heavenly Dean and Yun Xiang, who were sitting by the side, immediately restrained their expressions of watching a good show. Following that, they heard Yun Duan continued, everything depends on evidence, it's just one mouth. If there's no evidence to prove that student Yiqing Luo did it, how do you expect us to believe? If you insist that it's our Heavenly Academy students who snatched your returning Heaven Yuan serene grass, then please show us the evidence. Yun Duan's words received the approval of the other Academy's deans. Prime Minister's son stared angrily at Yun Duan. I swear on my position as Prime Minister. If this returning Heaven Yuan serene grass is not snatched by devil class students, I will never be able to break through to the sky profound realm. And voluntarily resign from the position of Prime Minister. The entire floating fragrance restaurant was in silence. As everyone knew, Prime Minister's son had a deep obsession to break through to the sky profound realm. Today Prime Minister's son actually used the sky profound realm and the position of Prime Minister as a bet. Apparently he was 100% sure that the returning Heaven Yuan serene grass was snatched by devil class. Looking at Prime Minister's son's infuriated look, Yiqing Luo's heart started to have a suspicion. She narrowed her eyes as her gaze swept across the devil class students who were seated at the various tables. She actually discovered that a trace of guilt flashed past those students' eyes. Guilty? Yiqing Luo frowned. Could it be? She touched the World Mercenary Group's badge as she spoke in her heart. Speak, what's going on? The devil class students looked at each other in dismay. No one dared to bring up this matter. After a short while it was Long Yunzhan who explained. It turned out that when Yiqing Luo went missing, she had met with the 4 young ladies from the Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li families who were looking for trouble at the treasure gathering area. Following that, she got into a conflict with Prime Minister Sunday. After that, Yiqing Luo and Prime Minister's son argued for such a long time in treasure-gathering chambers. With regards to Yiqing Luo's disappearance, devil classes students had heard about Prime Minister's son and Yiqing Luo's matter and were desperate enough to try any doctor, directly insisting that Prime Minister's son had kidnapped Yan Xiaoyi in order to take revenge on Yiqing Luo, intentionally luring Yiqing Luo to walk right into the trap. Now that he thought about it, it was incredible. Devil class students blocked Prime Minister's son's way back to East Continent, forcing Prime Minister's son to release them. How would Prime Minister's son know where Yiqing Luo was? Recalling Yiqing Luo's repeated insults towards him, his attitude naturally wasn't very good. Hence, the devil class students evolved into forcefully snatching back the Tianyuan serene grass, forcing Prime Minister's son to release them. Later on, when Yiqing Luo returned, Yan Xiaoyi fainted from being poisoned, and immediately following that, they came to Floating Fragrance Restaurant to gorge themselves. This kind of matter, which was of no importance to them, was thrown to the back of their minds. After listening to these explanations, Yiqing Luo's forehead was filled with black lines. No wonder Prime Minister's son dared to use the 2 matters which he cared about the most, as bargaining chips for his poison curse. Her bunch of little fellows had really taken action to snatch back the Tianyuan serene grass. Their guts were really huge. Chapter 1925. Whatever the devil class did, was also considered as what she, Yiqing Luo, had done. This time round she really had to let down the various principals' trust. Yiqing Luo silently clicked her tongue as she thought of countermeasures in her heart. The students looked at Yiqing Luo's lowered head and the expression on her face was faintly grave. Some students nervously transmitted their voices through the World Group badge. Why don't I send the sky recovering primordial serene grass back now? Send it back? Why do you want to send it back? Yiqing Luo raised her head abruptly as she stared at that student. This is the sky recovering primordial serene grass which is worth 70 million. The students? You've done beautifully this time. You're a little like me. Yiqing Luo didn't forget to praise herself narcissistically as she rubbed her chin as she gave an evil smile. Things which are already in our hands, how can we return it? The students' lips twitched. There was a reason why they had become so intrepid now. With such a perverted leader. It would be strange if they weren't perverted. But this feeling was so damn satisfying. That's right. This was the sky-recovering primordial serene grass which was worth 70 million. They had spent quite a lot of effort before they managed to snatch it from Prime Minister's son. If they were to return it, they would be so aggrieved. After hearing Yi Qingluo's words, the students were feeling more and more pleased with themselves. Especially when they saw Prime Minister's son's face flushed red, they felt even more delighted. Who asked this fellow to show their boss that face in public? Who asked this fellow to take advantage of his seniority and bully others? Who asked this fellow to compete with their boss for the medicinal herb? If they didn't squeeze this fellow dry, then they weren't devil class. After finding out that everything was done by her bunch of brothers, Yi Qingluo's arrogance grew stronger and stronger. So what if it was done by her brothers? Her brother had overturned the skies of the South Below continent. She could still cover for them. Even if she couldn't, there was still Dmo Xian. She was just that willful. She was just that protective. Whoever had any objections, she would exterminate them. Since Prime Minister's son made it sound so serious, then I can swear that if I snatched your sky-recovering primordial serene grass, I will become a waste once again. Yi Qingluo's brows rose as she crossed her arms and smiled coldly at Prime Minister Sunday. Apparently, she was provoking Prime Minister Sunday. She was indeed provoking Prime Minister Sunday. When the devil class students heard this oath, they could not help but laugh. Boss was really too evil. Boss was just too evil. These 2 days she went somewhere. It was true that she had never participated in snatching back the Tianyuan serene grass. However, Prime Minister's son clearly didn't understand this word game. He masters yi. He was so angry that the top of his head was smoking and his whole body was trembling. Behind her, Zhao, Qian's son and Li family's young ladies couldn't bear it any longer as they scolded loudly. Yi Qingluo. Usually, down. If my uncle wasn't sure that it was you who took back the heavenly primordial serene grass, why would he ask you to take it back in front of so many uncles? Miss Zhao added, I'm sure everyone here knows what the heaven-restoring serene grass means to Prime Minister's son. If Qing Qingyang said Luo Yang Minister Qing Luo Chen. Tian Qing Qing said Qing Luo Sun Yi Qing Prime Minister Yang Luo did how Minister I would not Qing Qing Chen, Yi Qing Luo. Prime Minister's son has given you uncle's face. As long as you hand over the sky-recovering primordial serene grass, we will let bygones be bygones. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Qian family's young miss reprimanded her sharply. Chapter 1926. However, Yi Qingluo maintained a light smile from start to end. She narrowed her eyes and looked into their eyes. It was like watching a monkey show. That kind of contempt, insufferably arrogant. Zhao, Qian's son and Li, 4 young ladies' hearts were boiling with anger, and immediately 4 voices were heard as they directly attacked towards Yi Qingluo's direction. He made his move as soon as he said he would. Moreover, they were 4 young girls. Those directors wanted to protect Yi Qingluo. It was not convenient for him to fight with the young girl. Otherwise, if word of this got out, they were afraid that it would turn into them bullying the younger generation. That was exactly what Prime Minister's son had in mind. The young ladies of the 4 families made their moves. Those self-proclaimed aloof directors didn't dare to make the first move to protect Yi Qingluo. Hey! How dare you all behave atrociously in front of Sister Qingluo? She didn't care so much. The minute she saw someone attacking her sister Qingluo, she immediately struck out a burst of profound energy, blocking in front of Yi Qingluo. Bang! The loud sound of someone slamming the table could be heard. The wooden table shattered into pieces. Shiruoyu stood up angrily. Despite his young age, his aura was terrifying. Prime Minister's son, just how dissatisfied are you with my Shi clan and the Gathering Treasures Pavilion? Prime Minister's son's eyes were full of anger. He was ready to risk everything and wasn't afraid of Shiruoyu's threat. I have no intention of becoming enemies with young Master Shi. I just want to take back the sky-recovering serene grass that I bid for with 70 million gold coins. Shiruoyu's expression sunk slightly. Since Qingluo said that she didn't take the sky-returning vitality serene grass, then she didn't. This young master believes in Qingluo's character. Young Master Shi, are you saying that I lied to all of you in front of all of you? Prime Minister's son glared at him. The old man and the young man refused to give in to each other. The 4 ladies of the Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li families were stopped by Shiruoshi. He immediately changed the direction of his attack and once again attacked towards Yi Qingluo's direction. Shiruoshi's bright eyes suddenly flashed with a biting cold light. She raised her hand and pulled out the soft sword hidden in her sleeve, ready to attack. Little Shi. Yi Qingluo suddenly spoke out and stopped Shi Ruoxi's actions. They're just four trash that can't even be seen in public. If I let you do it, wouldn't it be dirtying my little Shi's slender and beautiful hands? Shi Ruoxi was stunned, and upon hearing Yi Qingluo's praise, her face immediately turned red. Sister Qingluo only knows how to tease me. Yi Qingluo smiled slightly as she went forward and pressed Shi Ruoxi's shoulder, pulling her behind her. After that, her charming eyes raised slightly to form a long and narrow arc that was extremely bewitching. You four dregs, the lesson at the treasure-gathering pavilion isn't enough for you to remember, right? Then, now I will make you remember this day. When her words fell, Yi Qingluo's figure had already appeared beside the four young ladies of the Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li families. Everyone only saw a red afterimage flash. Soon after, miserable shrieks rose and fell one after another. In just a moment, the four young ladies were like a flower bud, blooming in all directions. Dong dong dong. Several heavy objects fell to the ground. The four young ladies fell heavily to the ground. Each posture was more twisted than the last. Miss? At the entrance, two middle-aged men suddenly rushed in and towards the four young ladies who were sent flying on the ground. They opened their throats and howled. One of the middle-aged men raised his head and stared angrily at Yi Qingluo. You vicious woman! How dare you hurt our miss? Chapter 1927. Yi Qingluo. This act was even more fake than her. Did he need to be so fake? It was obvious that the two crying girls were Prime Minister Sun's accomplices. As expected, the next moment, Prime Minister Sun's malicious eyes had already looked towards Yi Qingluo's direction. Yi Qingluo. I have already tried to reason with you nicely, but since you're so stubborn and even hurt the three young ladies of the Zhao, Qian and Li family, if I don't seek justice for them, then I will be ashamed to call them uncle. He finally found a legitimate excuse. Prime Minister Sun raised his long sword as he closed in on Yi Qingluo's direction. That old face was filled with a sinister expression. Apparently, he wanted to take advantage of the situation to take Yi Qingluo's life. He was determined to take back the sky primordial serene grass. Yi Qingluo raised her brows as she squinted her eyes, using her own eyes to analyze Prime Minister Sun's attack in her mind. Her body instinctively started to display her footwork. Just at the moment when Prime Minister Sun approached, he only heard two bam-bam sounds. Immediately following that, Prime Minister Sun's body was flung out like a spinning top. His slightly plump body spun unsteadily on the spot a few times. Following that, his feet became unsteady as he tripped and fell onto the ground. That sound of him falling onto the ground was extremely ear-piercing. Prime Minister Sun laid on the ground in disbelief. What made him flushed red to his ears and extremely ashamed was his face was burning with intense pain. On his old face there was a clear imprint of 5 fingers. Apparently, the 2 slaps earlier had landed on Prime Minister Sun's face. He was actually slapped twice by Yi Qingluo unknowingly? Moreover, he didn't even notice it. He was slapped onto the ground by Yi Qingluo's powerful strength. How could this be possible? How could this be possible? How could Yi Qingluo possibly make a move on him in such a short period of time without him noticing? Yi Qingluo was merely a 15-year-old young lady. No matter how the outside world had described it to be miraculous, that couldn't change the fact that Yi Qingluo was merely a 15-year-old young lady. Even if Yi Qingluo was a genius among geniuses, at most she was in the Earth Profound grade. He was an Earth Profound 8th grade Profound practitioner. How could that bitch be stronger than him? It was impossible for him to lose to a 15-year-old girl. Prime Minister Sun's eyes were masked with an eerily cold intent, and immediately after, he faced Yi Qingluo's direction, as he exploded wave after wave of surging profound energy. Waves of qi surged into the sky, stacking layer upon layer as they surged up. It was as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was splitting apart, as if it was going to devour everything in the world. In the Piaoxiang restaurant there were not only guests like the dean. There were also quite a number of students who followed their own director and worshipped Yi Qingluo. When this imposing manner engulfed the Piaoxiang restaurant, the entire floating fragrance restaurant resounded with an earth-shattering sound. One could faintly hear the surrounding floors collapsing and teetering on the verge of collapse. There were also some low-level students who were directly forced to spit out a mouthful of blood under this powerful profound rank. You are the Prime Minister of a nation, yet you are so rude and overbearing. You don't care about the safety of the students of the various academies and forcibly release your profound energy. You are not fit to be the Prime Minister of the East Water Continent. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as she faced Prime Minister Sun's imposing manner which could swallow the mountains and rivers, totally not showing any signs of fear. Chapter 1928. Yiqing Luo, hand over the returning heaven primordial serene grass. His strong obsession made Prime Minister Sun unwilling to give up even though he knew that Yiqing Luo's counterattack was extremely dangerous. His sinister eyes were filled with fanatical hatred. His aura at this instant surged up another grade. Faintly, it had already reached the momentum of Earth Profound 9th grade. He felt that he was about to break through the barrier. Prime Minister Sun's gaze towards Yiqing Luo was filled with excitement and fanaticism. He excitedly raised the long blade in his hand as he crazily slashed towards Yiqing Luo. The glower flame fan on Yiqing Luo's fingertips shone with a demonic red glow. Just as Prime Minister Sun was coming towards her, Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved. The glower flame fan suddenly opened up. An extremely powerful beam of profound energy poured down from the sky. The beautiful glower flame fan was like a blooming fireball. On Yiqing Luo's fingertips, it was like an excited fire elf, swimming in the flames. It gave off a dazzling brilliance. The fan's shadow flickered as the profound glow exploded. Prime Minister Sun sneered, totally disregarding Yiqing Luo. He only treated this as an opportunity for him to advance to Earth Profound 9th grade. As long as he advanced successfully, then he would get the returning heaven primordial serene grass back. He would be a sky mystic overlord cultivator. He would be able to look down on everything. Look down on everything. Thinking in this way, Prime Minister Sun became more and more arrogant. Facing against Yiqing Luo's profound glow, he directly collided against it. Bam! A loud sound was heard. An intense profound energy exploded at this instance. Ah! A blood-curdling scream was heard. A figure was seen flying out of the formation. The figure landed heavily on the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Prime Minister Sun's face was filled with blood and malevolence. He pressed his chest as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The surrounding deans saw it very clearly. The gazes they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with disbelief. If it was before they had heard about Yiqing Luo's various legends, or even the matter of Yiqing Luo sealing the King of Darkness's consciousness, the various academies' directors didn't believe it completely. They believed that it was Yiqing Luo who saved their students. But they didn't believe that it was Yiqing Luo who had saved their students on her own. But at this moment he had personally witnessed Yiqing Luo going head-on against an earth-profound 8th grade high-leveled cultivator. Prime Minister Sunday Yiqing Luo was actually unscathed. Furthermore, his expression was one of contentment, as if he hadn't expended any energy at all. On the contrary, Prime Minister Sun was suppressed by Yiqing Luo's profound energy till he had no way to resist at all. And some of the higher-level profound practitioners of the Earth Profound realm were even more clear about what had happened just now. Prime Minister Sun's dark force suddenly burst out. They could feel it clearly. It was obvious that Prime Minister Sun had already advanced to the 9th grade of the Earth Profound realm under the stimulation just now. This meant that Prime Minister Sun already had the strength of a 9th grade Earth Xian. But even so, he was still suppressed by Yiqing Luo till he had no way to retaliate. Earlier, Yiqing Luo had not done any strange actions at all. It was just a simple wave of the glowing flame fan. Then Prime Minister Sun was sent flying backward. The raging profound energy was still spreading in the air. Prime Minister Sun's flame which was surging suddenly stopped at the instance when he was struck by Yiqing Luo's profound energy. To the cultivators, they were the clearest on what this indicated. Prime Minister Sun's chance to advance to the 9th grade of the Earth Profound realm had already been destroyed. What's more, Prime Minister Sun's profound jade heart had also suffered a backlash because of this accident. Which meant, the current Prime Minister Sun had not only lost the chance to advance to the 9th grade of the Earth Profound realm, his profound grade had been lowered. Chapter 1929. Of course, this didn't mean that Prime Minister Sun's profound grade was completely countered and could no longer be restored to its original profound grade. But it also didn't mean that Prime Minister Sun's profound grade could be restored. Prime Minister Sun's strength from the backlash had directly become an Earth Profound 6th grade cultivator. Moreover, he was unable to fully unleash his 6th grade profound energy. Otherwise, his profound jade heart would face the situation of his profound chi becoming unstable. In other words, the consequences of Prime Minister Sun being heavily injured by Yiqing Luo was that the latter half of his life would be ruined. Cough. Cough cough. Large mouthfuls of blood gushed out from Prime Minister Sun's mouth. Those two middle-aged men who were crying about Zhao Qian's son and Miss Li could no longer pretend as they pounced towards Prime Minister Sun. Prime Minister! Prime Minister! Prime Minister Sun's body trembled as his pair of venomous eyes were filled with helplessness and hatred. He stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's appearance, how could he have fallen to such a state? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her eyes were filled with ridicule and ridicule. She sneered as her lips curled upwards as she looked at Prime Minister Sun as though she was looking at a dead object. He hated her? Yiqing Luo scoffed as she slowly walked towards Prime Minister Sunday. She crossed her arms in front of her chest as her long and narrow eyes rose slightly. Prime Minister Sun, this time? Your dream of being a sky mystic overlord will be completely shattered. You slut. Prime Minister Sun coughed as he spat out the words. Yiqing Luo covered her mouth as she laughed delightfully. So in Prime Minister Sun's mind, a weak woman like me facing the East Continent's Prime Minister, can only stand there obediently and let you hit me, then that's called not slut? She smiled as she raised her hand and with a pah, she slapped Prime Minister Sun's face. That loud sound made Prime Minister Sun's blood spurt out once again. Yiqing Luo retracted her hand as she smiled at Prime Minister Sun. Prime Minister Sun is indeed not slut. The surrounding onlookers couldn't help but laugh out loud. One of them laughed and the people around him laughed as well. No one knew if they were laughing at Yiqing Luo's humor. Or was he laughing at Yiqing Luo's wit? Or was he laughing at Prime Minister Sun? Prime Minister Sun's face turned green and red as anger surged in his chest. He was about to advance to the earth-profound 9th grade, but Yiqing Luo had turned him into a 6th grade trash. And now he was humiliating him in front of the deans of the continents. Prime Minister Sun's eyes were filled with venom. He couldn't wait to use his eyes to dismember Yiqing Luo into thousands of pieces. Stare at me? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she approached him smilingly. Before he leaned over, Prime Minister Sun had already shrunk back in terror. His eyes widened as he gritted his teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo fiercely. What are you trying to do? This minister is the Prime Minister of the East Water Continent. If you dare to touch this minister again, the East Water Continent will never let you off. Guards, why are you guys still standing there? Hurry up and capture this slut who tried to assassinate me. Prime Minister Sun roared as he looked at the group of black-clothed men surrounding the fragrance restaurant. Those 100 over black-clothed men were about to take action after they received the order. Shi Ruoyu and the rest of Devil Class's youngsters had already dashed in front of those black-clothed men. This young master wants to see who dares to make a move. Prime Minister Sun was so infuriated that he clenched his teeth. Do you really want to go against my East Water Continent? What's the Prime Minister of East Water Continent? Yiqing Luo's chilly sneer was heard leisurely. Prime Minister Sun must have forgotten, I am the West Water Continent's Three Springs sect. Young master. Sect. Lord. Star. Chapter 1930. As everyone knew, on the 4 continents, the most respected people were not the imperial family, but the 4 great sects of the 4 continents. It was rumored that they were the guardians of the Nirvana realm, guarding the tomb of the divine emperor of the god race. Even now, the Three Springs sect was not what it used to be because of the current sect master. But at the very least, he still carried the title of one of the 4 great sections. If it was a matter of status. No matter what, it was Yiqing Luo who was the West Continent's Three Springs sect's young matriarch who was more respectable. Even though the former Yiqing Luo had the title of young matriarch, but had no real power. But the current Yiqing Luo was obviously the future patriarch of Three Springs sect. Prime Minister Sun actually dared to use his prime minister position to oppress Yiqing Luo? This was simply a slap in the face. Everyone looked at Prime Minister Sun with ridicule in their eyes. He seemed to be mocking Prime Minister Sun for overestimating himself. Prime Minister Sun was forced to the ground. His cheeks had already turned red and swollen from Yiqing Luo's palms. His old face looked extremely dejected. His eyes were wide open, making his face look even more hideous and terrifying. Yiqing Luo's brows rose frivolously as she met Prime Minister Sun's gaze without any fear as she gave a meaningful smile. Now, what else can Prime Minister Sun rely on to negotiate terms with me? Although Yiqing Luo wasn't considered as a righteous person. However, he was definitely not a kind-hearted person. If it wasn't for Prime Minister Sun using his title as the Prime Minister to give Miss Zhao, Miss Qian, Miss Sun and Miss Li the right to flaunt their prowess and provoke her. She wouldn't have anything to do with Prime Minister Sunday. Or rather, after the devil class students had snatched the returning Sky Yuan serene grass. The method he adopted was to use the soft approach first and then the hard approach. Perhaps she would be amenable to coaxing but not coercion? However, Prime Minister Sun had to use this method to solve the problem. He couldn't blame her for using the same violent method to strike back at his decision. Sun Qing seemed to have thought of something when he heard one of Yi Qing Luo's words, as his eyes suddenly filled with ridicule. He stared at Yi Qing Luo, his eyes filled with sympathy as though he was ridiculing her. That gaze made Yi Qing Luo sick of it. She furrowed her brows in displeasure. Just as he raised his hand, he saw Prime Minister Sun grinning mockingly. Three Springs Sect? Ah, you still want to rely on the Three Springs Sect? The current Three Springs Sect had already changed. The new sect master has already stripped you of your position as the young sect master and... He smiled coldly. When he saw the astonishment in Yi Qing Luo's eyes, he laughed even more savagely. That's right. Not only have you lost your identity as the Three Springs Sect's young sect leader, but the new sect leader has also ordered the arrest of a traitor like you. Ah, you didn't expect it, right? Aha, you didn't expect it, right? As he laughed, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. However, he was still laughing maniacally. Prime Minister Sun's words indeed made Yi Qing Luo stunned. Her eyes flickered and a trace of coldness appeared in her charming eyes. Tell me clearly what happened to the Three Springs Sect. What new sect master? Traitor of the Three Springs Sect? She had only left the Western continent for less than a month. Something big happened in the Western continent? Don't believe what I said? Prime Minister Sun could tell how much importance Yi Qing Luo placed on the Three Springs Sect. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's pale face, he laughed so hard that he couldn't stop coughing, but he still couldn't stop laughing. The news from the Western continent has gradually spread to the various continents. There are so many deans from various academies present, so I'm sure they have their own channels to find out about this news. Star. Chapter 1931. The deans' faces darkened at once. Their expressions all fell into Yi Qing Luo's eyes. Clenching her slender fingers, she narrowed her eyes and looked coldly at the president of Nantao Academy. Is what Prime Minister Sun said true? Prime Minister Sun did not speak in private. The people around them heard it clearly. When Yi Qing Luo asked this question, the principals immediately shifted their gazes away, not daring to look at Qin Nan. Dean Nantao, who had been called out, could only brace himself and reply, "In the past 2 days there have been rumors that you were kidnapped. Our attention has been focused on searching for you. We have yet to verify the news from the West continent." They had indeed learned of the changes that had occurred in the West Wave continent through their own channels. However, he did not think too much about it. He wanted to wait until the matter of the South Wave continent was resolved before investigating the West Wave continent. Unexpectedly, Prime Minister Sun already knew what had happened in the West continent. Clearly, this matter had something to do with the Three Springs Sect. Qing Luo, I'll get someone to find out more about Three Springs Sect. Shi Ruoyu had already started to make arrangements. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as her gaze was extremely cold. She suddenly bent down and grabbed Prime Minister Sun's collar. What happened to the Three Springs Sect? Who is the new sect leader? Prime Minister Sun was laughing so hard that he was bleeding. His malevolent face stared maliciously at Yi Qing Luo as he laughed coldly. Ha ha ha. This minister will not say anything. Little slut, you've lost the position of young sect master that you're so proud of. Now you're just a traitor that everyone wants to beat up, ha ha. Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists. Little bitch, hand over the returning Heaven Yuan's serene grass. I will tell you about the Three Springs Sect, or else the Three Springs Sect will soon come to capture you, the traitor. As though he saw the forbearance in Yi Qing Luo's eyes, Prime Minister Sun's smile grew wider. Prime Minister Sun's complacent expression caused her to feel even more irritated in her heart. In South Tide Continent's territory, Yi Qing Luo could not kill Prime Minister Sunday, otherwise he would be bringing shame to the South Waves continent. But she could boldly make Prime Minister Sun's life a living hell. Just as Prime Minister Sun was laughing loudly, something cold slid down his throat. Prime Minister Sun immediately slapped his mouth helplessly. Little bitch, what did you give me to eat? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an eerie sneer as she didn't even bother to take a look at Premier Sun as she lifted her leg and dashed out of the restaurant. Prime Minister Sun was about to get up and grab Yi Qing Luo. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his body. It was as if thousands of silver needles had pierced into his bones. Sometimes itching, sometimes stinging. In particular, the bursts of piercing pain were all aimed at the most painful parts of the bones. Each burst of tingling feeling down. It was as if his bones were broken and his limbs were torn apart. Then they were reconnected and torn again. He was in so much pain that his entire face was contorted. He fell to the ground and screamed. The deans nearby patted their chests and let out relieved sighs. Fortunately, they did not offend that little devil. The torture methods of this little ancestor were truly horrifying. He didn't know what kind of strange things she was carrying on her. Shiruashi and her siblings and those devil class students had no mood to bother about Prime Minister Sunday. Chapter 1932. No one had noticed that somewhere on the second floor, a red figure had stopped in his tracks, standing by the side of the railing. The young man's face was as cold as ice, without any emotions. A blazing red robe matched him perfectly without any sense of incongruity. His 5 fingers were clenched tightly, clasping the top of the railing. A pair of cold black eyes gazed at Yi Qing Luo's departing figure without blinking. Earlier it was just a short moment. He couldn't help but rush to the first floor to teach Prime Minister Sun a lesson, and to tell her all the news about Three Springs sect. But eventually he stopped in his tracks. He was already very clear in his heart. That young lady wasn't the young lady he was looking for. He shouldn't place his vision on her. But not knowing why, even though he knew that she wasn't her. In his heart, in his mind, it was all about her figure. 5 fingers tightened again. The railing broke with a creak. Yi Qing Luo's speed was extremely fast as she rushed back to room 1. In the eyes of outsiders, perhaps they thought that Yi Qing Luo had a deep obsession with the position of the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. But what Yi Qing Luo was worried about was not the position of the young matriarch. Attending the South Continent's exchange meet, Yi Fengyu didn't participate but stayed in the Yi family. If there was a change in Three Springs sect, Yi Fengyu would definitely be in danger. No matter who the new matriarch was, he would not let him off. There was also her loyal servant, Ziling, who was thinking of bringing her out of the Three Springs sect. Rather than wasting time here to interrogate Prime Minister Sunday, why not directly return to room 1 to settle the matters of those students? She had to rush back to the West Continent immediately to see what changes had happened to Three Springs sect. As the situation was urgent, Yi Qing Luo didn't stay for too long. She told Xiao Jin about the matter in a concise and comprehensive manner. She asked Xiao Jin to stay in the South Continent until Yen Xiaoyi recovered, before returning to the West Continent with the Devil Class students and Heavenly Academy. As for her, Dmo Xian, Long Yunzhan and the rest, they rode on Shiju and Little Nine. By the time the vice principal and a bunch of students reached room 1, Yi Qing Luo and the rest had already left. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo's thoughts had already flown to the West Continent. Dmo Xian hugged her petite body tightly as he comforted her in a low voice. He had already spread the news. Once they arrived at the Western Continent, someone would inform them of the recent happenings in the Western Continent. Yi Qing Luo also knew that the only thing she could do now was to calm her own emotions and wait till they reached the West Continent before she could fully devote herself into the battle. However, when he thought of his silly brother and Ziling, whose leg had not fully recovered, he felt a little guilty. She couldn't help but worry. Shiju and Little Nine were extremely fast. But no matter how fast they were, it would take at least 2 days to travel from the South Wave Continent to the West Wave Continent. Moreover, Shiju and Little Nine still needed to rest. Therefore, by the time they arrived at the West Continent, it was already 3 days later. Before they even got close to the West Continent, Yi Qing Luo already sensed the strange atmosphere in the West Continent. It was extremely strange and abnormal. Yi Qing Luo and the rest got down from Shiju and Little Nine's body in advance and changed their appearances, making some changes. Just as he was about to approach Three Springs City to look for the person arranged by Dmo Xian, suddenly, a tall man stumbled into the group of them. Yi Qing Luo's sharp body tried to evade him. That person's large palm had already landed on her shoulder. A low hoarse voice was heard by the side of her ear, "It's me, follow me, star." Chapter 1933. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she stopped in her tracks. After that, a group of people walked out of the queue and headed towards the direction of the city gate. On top of the city gate's wall, a gorgeous lady dressed in gorgeous clothes was escorted by the guards as she slowly walked over. The lady stood on top of the city gate as her sinister beautiful eyes swept across the bustling crowd below. She narrowed her eyes as her voice was filled with arrogance. Haven't found the person yet? The guard's face was filled with flattery. Eldest young Miss Yi, don't worry. As long as the Yi family's traitor enters the city, we will do our best to capture the traitor. The lady scoffed lightly as a chilly glint flashed past her eyes. You bunch of trash, you can't even do such a small thing. How are you going to capture the Yi family's traitor? I really don't know what's the use of Three Springs City keeping you bunch of trash. The faces of the guards behind her sunk instantly. But no matter how unhappy they were, they still had to maintain a smile on their faces as they carefully responded to the lady. Suddenly, the lady's expression changed abruptly. Her eyes were fixed on a spot in the crowd in front of her. Following that, the lady leaped up and flipped down from the wall. Eldest young Miss Yi. Eldest young Miss Yi. The guards were in a mess. The commoners or merchants who were entering the city were all shocked when a gorgeous lady suddenly leaped down from the sky. However, that lady pushed the crowd aside as her gaze frantically searched through the crowd. Instantly, the outside of the city gate was in a mess. A few hundred meters away from Three Springs City, in a more secluded abandoned temple, Yi Qingluo had yet to open her mouth when she saw the man in front of her walking straight to the back of the Buddha statue, only to hear a creak sound of stone rubbing against each other. Behind the Buddha statue, a secret entrance appeared. Yi Qingluo raised her brows as she sized up the man with interest. Zifan, you also made a secret entrance behind the ruined temple. Don't tell me you've long guessed that one day, our Yi family would need to rely on this secret entrance of yours to escape? She laughed out teasingly as she bent over and entered the secret entrance. The man shook his head as he laughed lightly. I don't have the ability to predict the future. This secret entrance was made by Zifei that lad out of boredom. Although the tunnel was roughly dug, it was enough for a tall man to walk. Yi Qingluo and the rest walked along the secret path for a short while before they saw the lights in front. Following that, a figure walked out. Big brother, you're finally back. How is it, have you found Qingluo? The last word had yet to leave his mouth. When that person saw Yi Qingluo, his eyes suddenly lit up. Qingluo. Qingluo. You're finally back. Looking at the young face in front of her, revealing a joyful expression, Yi Qingluo couldn't help but laugh. What happened to Three Springs sect? Why are the two brothers of the Mu family hiding in this secret passage? He was right. The one who led Yi Qingluo and her entourage to the secret passage was Mu family's eldest young master, Mu Zifan. And this person who was currently looking at her with wild joy, was precisely the Mu family's second young master, Mu Zifei. She didn't expect to be recognized by Mu Zifan as soon as she returned to the western continent. Could it be that her disguise had deteriorated? It's sister. Is sister back? Suddenly, a trembling voice sounded from the secret chamber. Following that, the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground was heard. A woman's shocked voice was heard. Young master, don't move. Young master. Yi Qingluo's expression changed as she followed the voice and rushed into the chamber. Beside the stone bed at the side of the secret room, a delicate-looking youth fell to the ground in a sorry state. The young man was wrapped in bandages and the bandages were full of mottled blood stains. Star. Chapter 1934. Because of the young man's large movements, the bandage on his body was once again filled with blood. The girl squatting by the side with a sobbing tone, tried to help the young man back to the bed. But the young man insisted on climbing out of the bed. Young master, don't move. If you continue to move, you can't use your hands and feet. The girl cried with tears all over her face. Let me go. I want to see my sister. I want. He hadn't finished his words. An extremely clear voice could be heard saying, Ziling, let him go. The girl squatting on the ground heard the words, suddenly raised her head and looked in front of her in surprise. A young girl in red stood in front of them coldly, like a waterfall of fine black hair, simply tied up at the temples of a young girl. That face, ordinary and unremarkable. But that pair of charming eyes, just one look, they recognized the identity of the girl. Ziling's throat was dry. After a long time she spat out two words, Miss. Yi Qingluo's expression was indifferent. Her eyes were also emotionless as she stared coldly at the two people in front of her. Ziling, come here. Ziling instinctively wanted to get up. But the muffled groan of the young man beside her made her heart hurt. If she really let go of his hand, he would certainly not be able to stabilize his body, he would fall. Ziling's lips trembled. just as she was about to open her mouth to plead for him. But she was interrupted by Yi Qingluo's cold voice. Ziling, you are my servant. Her voice deepened a few notches. Ziling knew that this was the last sign of Yi Qingluo's tolerance. If she insisted on supporting Yi Fengyu, not to mention whether she would be driven out by Yi Qingluo, she was afraid that Yi Fengyu would also be implicated because of this. What's more, Yi Qingluo would not bear to let him get hurt. Ziling pursed her lips and carefully let go of Yi Fengyu's hand. Immediately, she slowly walked to Yi Qingluo's side. The young girl had already shed the immaturity she once had. She had a pretty face that was extremely delicate and pretty. Her leg had been healed, walking steadily. No one could tell that she was once a disabled person. Yi Qingluo just took a glance and saw that the current Ziling was actually a cultivator in the yellow profound 7th grade realm. Although this profound grade was extremely low for Yi Qingluo. However, with Ziling's aptitude in just a few months from an ordinary person with no cultivation foundation, she became a profound practitioner. It could be seen that he was no longer trash. She just lacked an opportunity. Yi Qingluo withdrew her gaze from Ziling. Then it landed on Yi Fengyu. She narrowed her eyes and crossed her arms over her chest. She looked at the young man who was kneeling on the ground and panting heavily. She curled her lips into a mocking sneer. Didn't you say that you don't want your hands and feet anymore? That you don't even want your life anymore? Then stand up and walk in front of me. Miss? Ziling bit her lower lip, tears welling up in her eyes. The Mu brothers who followed behind her coughed lightly. Qingluo, it's not easy for you two to meet, don't make the atmosphere so stiff. Yi Qingluo sneered, her eyes were sneering. Yes, because I was worried about him, worried about what happened to Three Springs sect. I rushed back from the southern continent, did not dare to stop for even a moment. It was not easy to rush back, only to find out that my brother is not afraid of death. Sister. Yi Fengyu was in so much pain that he sucked in a breath of cold air. His fair face was drenched in sweat. His voice trembled as he called out to Yi Qingluo. Don't call me sister, I don't have a brother like you who doesn't take his own body seriously. Yi Qingluo scolded in a low voice. Star. Chapter 1935. Qingluo Xiaoyu also knows his mistake, don't blame him if he continues to lie down like this, not to mention his feet and hands won't recover, I reckon he will die from excessive blood loss. Mu Zifei tried to smooth things over, quickly walked towards Yi Fengyu, bent down and prepared to help him up. No need to help him. Yi Qingluo coldly glanced at Mu Zifei. Mu Zifei's body stiffened, pausing his actions. Mu Zifan clutched his chest, obediently shut his mouth and didn't dare to speak. Obviously changed into an ordinary face, thrown into the crowd, absolutely no one would be able to pick out that kind of face. But unfortunately his aura was still so strong. Especially when he met her enchanting eyes that seemed to have been frozen for 1,000 years. They were so stunned that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. There was a strange silence in the secret chamber. The Mu brothers looked at each other, seemingly urging each other to break the deadlock. However, after being swept by Yi Qingluo's gaze, both of them didn't dare to speak lightly. Ziling was even more afraid to speak. And Yi Qingluo and the rest knew Yi Qingluo's character very well. Even if they opened their mouths to plead for Yi Fengyu. As long as Yi Qingluo was still angry, Yi Fengyu still couldn't understand where he went wrong. Yi Qingluo wouldn't be the slightest bit lenient. Just when everyone's heart was in a state of turmoil, she saw a purple figure slowly walking to Yi Qingluo's back, raised his palm and gently placed it on her head. The man also had an ordinary face. But no one would be able to think of him as ordinary and mediocre. The man's temperament was out of this world, like a banished immortal. Looking at Yi Qingluo's eyes, it was full of pampering and gentleness. His big palm gently stroked Yi Qingluo's head, smiling warmly. Xiaoyu already knows his mistake, don't punish him like this, isn't punishing him also punishing yourself? The Mu brothers' vision fell onto DMO Xian in unison. Their guess was right. This man was the disguised DMO Xian. Being touched so gently by the man. Yi Qingluo's gloomy cold air gradually dissipated by more than half. She unhappily swatted away the hand on her head and stared resentfully at DMO Xian. She was teaching Yi Fengyu that no matter what, he must always value his own life. However, she could see that Yi Fengyu's body had indeed reached its limit. His heart was aching. However, he could only endure the pain. He had already suffered such a serious injury. His hands and feet were about to be crippled. However, after hearing her voice, he didn't even care about his own body. He just wanted to rush out of the bed and see her. Did he think that being so agitated and doing this meant that he cared about her and that he was constantly worried about her? No. This kind of behavior, Yiqing Luo only wanted to comment on one word. That was stupidity. Big sister, I know I was wrong. Yi Fengyu's voice was strained, and all that was left was the sound of his breathing. He fiercely sucked in a breath of cold air and spoke again. Sister, please, help me back to the bed. Yiqing Luo's tensed expression, under Yi Fengyu's weak pleading, smoothly collapsed. She quickly walked forward and bent down to help Yi Fengyu up. She couldn't help but scold him. You've learned your lesson, haven't you? Yi Fengyu was sent to the back of the stone bed. Everyone behind him heaved a sigh of relief. Mu Zifei immediately went forward and took out a new bandage and medicine. Your injury is very serious. If you don't want to become a cripple, then obediently lie on the bed and don't move around. Yi Fengyu obediently nodded. Chapter 1936. Tell me what happened to Three Springs sect. What's the situation in Three Springs City now? Yiqing Luo looked at Mu Zifan. Mu Zifan's complexion immediately became grave. They casually found a place to sit down. Following that, he told Yiqing Luo everything that had happened during this period of time. Just 6 days ago. Which was also the day when Yiqing Luo went missing in South Tide Continent. The Three Springs sect was in turmoil. Yi Tianquang, the sect master of the Three Springs sect, was found to be seriously ill in bed, and no one could cure him. Even though the Three Springs sect's status in the West Wave continent had declined, it was still one of the 4 great sects that guarded the god race. Such a big sect. He couldn't be without a master for even a day. As the young sect matriarch, Yiqing Luo was still in South Tide Continent. Just at this moment, Yiqing Qian brought a large group of powerful cultivators back to Three Springs sect. On the same day, Three Springs sect announced the abolition of Yiqing Luo's young matriarch position. The reason was that sect master Yi Tianquang wasn't seriously ill at all. Rather, Yiqing Luo had poisoned Yi Tianquang in order to force him to abdicate. In order to hunt down Yiqing Luo, the deranged, patricide traitor of the Three Springs sect, Yiqing Qian recommended the only male in Three Springs sect who was still in the residence, Yi Fengru, as the new patriarch of Three Springs sect. After Yi Fengru became the patriarch of Three Springs sect, he passed most of the authority of Three Springs sect to Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Qian then placed the batch of powerful cultivators she had brought along into every corner of the West continent in batches. In a short span of 2 days, the Three Springs sect controlled the lifeline of the entire West continent. Even the 4 great clans had been brutally murdered. If anyone dares to defy the Three Springs sect, on that day the heads of the entire family would be hung on the city wall. In this way, the forces of the Western continent who were unwilling to accept the outcome wouldn't dare to act rashly. After Yiqing Luo finished listening, the expression on her face gradually congealed. She knitted her brows and asked, Yi Fengru and Yiqing Qian have joined forces? Have you fought with the batch of cultivators that Yiqing Qian brought back? She knew that Yi Fengru was ambitious, but she had not expected Yi Fengru to choose to cooperate with Yiqing Qian. This was truly unfathomable. Moreover, Yiqing Qian, she was now a member of the Dark Coalition. The group of powerful profound practitioners that he had brought with him was probably the group of people who had escaped from the Dark Forces. Yi Fengru should be very clear about Yiqing Qian's current power and the true identity of those cultivators. Now that the Dark Forces had been completely annihilated by the Imperial Palace, the remaining few wouldn't be able to cause much trouble. Yiqing Jin really couldn't understand. How could someone as smart as Yi Fengru make such a choice? Moreover, he was willing to let go of the authority of Three Springs sect to Yiqing Qian. What was even more terrifying was, in just 2 short days the entire Western continent was under their control. Yiqing Qian wanted to make use of Three Springs sect to let the Dark Forces return to Nirvana Realm? The day it happened, Big Brother and I were chased out by Dad. Mu Zifei shook his head. Father knows that those people from the Three Springs sect won't let you off, so he specially had us 2 brothers stop you before you enter the city. After Mu Zifan bandaged Yi Fengyu's wound again, he sighed lightly. Yiqing Qian knows that you're definitely worried about Fengyu and has been searching for your whereabouts in the city for the past few days. Once you enter the city, Yiqing Luo pursed her lips, recalling when she was pulled away by Mu Zifan earlier, falling onto herself, that icy cold gaze. Yiqing Qian probably already knew that she had returned to the Western continent. Start that you're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.